This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1894. Comic Talk.
Very, very subtle. Very subtle.
It is the Comic Talk.
Welcome to Comic Geek Speak. I'm Ian Levinstein.
I'm Shane Kelly.
And I'm Chris Eberly.
Wow, Shane, I felt like I was being attacked there.
These are the new Hasbro retro figures for the 40th anniversary of Jedi.
Nice.
So they are fairly close to the originals,
Which
but
means
they
you can't
are
manipulate the limbs then.
right. They're
Yeah.
just four,
Yeah.
straight arms, straight legs. They are different enough that if you know what you're doing, you can't sell them as impersonating the old school ones,
Mm.
but they're close enough that they look like it.
Okay.
And it's a newer plastic. It's better, and I don't have to fear about breaking them. And they're like $11, $12. So I was getting some of my favorites.
All right, it's the 4th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. Wow.
Yeah, isn't that
That's
terrifying?
right. That's right.
Yeah.
I know. Time flies when shit happens, basically.
Time.
L. Levinstein, Profundities.
Amen. Well, welcome one and all to the show, and it is Comic Talk time yet again, where we talk comics, we talk more recent comic news, and then we talk actual books and possibly even some comic-related media and what have you.
Well, usually
Ian is
Chris
now in
talks about
1920s.
comics.
Yeah, Ian
Yeah.
is now a 1920s gangster, by the way, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah. See?
Although if I go far enough along, then I will be the comic book guy, worst ever. But yeah, plenty of stuff to talk about this episode, and looking forward to getting into the bulk of it. But first, we remind you, the listeners, that we wouldn't be able to do this without you at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. For as little as $1 a month, you can join up on the Patreon end and help support the show in any way that you can. And if you can't, that's perfectly fine. We 100% understand that times are tough for some individuals, and just sending us either an iTunes review or just letting a friend or a coworker or what have you know about the show is just as important. And that's yet another way to contribute to the show if you can. But if you do have that $1 to spare, patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. And also my own personal Patreon at patreon.com/comictiming for the producing and whatnot and what have you. And the CGS one, if you haven't heard yet, now officially has an RSS feed. So whenever we get a chance to release anything exclusive on there, whether it be an early episode or extra content of any kind, it will live and be able to be downloaded directly onto that RSS feed. So extra perk there for anybody who's a patron. Thank you so much for your continued support of the show.
Hear, hear.
All righty.
Très bien.
Excellent. So let's get things rolling here. We may theoretically be joined by Murd later on. And if that does happen, I'm sure you'll hear Chris go, and
yeah.
so that's introduced into the call. But
Put steam in my strides.
Yep. We will just be the three of us.
Just depends if his time bubble stops by.
Indeed. That time bubble. I'm working on that. Anyway,
As I said, the time bubble is going to pick you up in the near future, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is, and we are deep into our planning stages of that.
Oh, terrific.
Hopefully, within the next few weeks, we'll sit our butts down into the lovely, comfortable seats of the time bubble and get ourselves sorted. Big news today out of Marvel. Kind of a ongoing story with Disney, as well, there's layoffs all along everywhere right now, even for companies that are successful at the moment. Amazon's laying off a whole bunch of people, Facebook, and Disney is doing the same. But a specific individual is now officially no longer a part of Marvel in any way, shape, or form. Ike Perlmutter has...
I didn't realize he was still affiliated with Marvel.
Oh, unfortunately so.
God.
Has been let go of Disney, And now officially, his Marvel Entertainment branch is 100% under the purvey of Disney and Kevin Feige. He still had a small amount of control over that particular branding. And that was some of the Hulu shows. And I think it also extended partially into video games and related media. But now that is now officially nothing. And Perlmutter is gonzo, bye-bye. So our long national nightmare is over. Ike Perlmutter.
Well, I was going to ask about that because I'm not well versed in the history of that at all. But I saw a lot of people cheering, so I figured it's good.
Ike Perlmutter was involved with, or has been involved with Marvel since the 90s, since the dark times. And he was an individual who was going through people's, final, when they were clearing their desks, when they were being fired during the bankruptcy in the 90s, going through people's stuff to make sure that they weren't leaving with comics.
Oh.
Like, this is the type of individual that Perlmutter has always been. He's the type of guy who would check to see if you were using too much paper towels in the Marvel offices.
Oh, God.
And potentially fire you because of grievances like that. And him and Feige never got along. And it's one of the reasons why.
Okay.
Exactly.
That guy.
The whole TV schism.
Got
right?
it.
Exactly. Yep. It's one of the reasons why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Inhumans was often their little bubble and not really a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You can't quite say that about Netflix shows, even though I think they did technically go under him, but they were under their own umbrella as well, which is why we're now seeing further integration with some of those characters. But yeah, he was more a thorn in the side of Marvel than he ever was a supporter of it. And he came over with the Disney purchase because he had enough shares and continued to be making money off of it. And now he is now no longer with the company after all these years since the 90s.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Definitely. I mean, think of how many different executives DC has had over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that we can, point to like 3 people that have been involved with Marvel up until this point. Now, the one negative is that this is part of a round of layoffs. So there may be more further layoffs to come within Marvel in one form or another. We're still waiting to see that. But this is the most prominent of layoffs that have happened, outside of one that happened a few weeks ago, where longtime Marvel executive Victoria Alonso, right, I think might be Axel's wife, if I remember correctly. Just thinking last name, like it seems like
that it could be.
But she was let go, and she was let go because she insisted on being a producer for a Amazon movie that was nominated for Best Animated Feature, Argentina, 1985. And that was made by Amazon, even though she was a Disney executive. And supposedly that then led to one of the many reasons why she was let go of her Marvel contract after all these years. So separate from that. But changes are happening. And we just have to wait and see whether or not it's a positive change or a negative change on the executive end. But I, for one, I'm not going to miss Mr. Perlmutter, just for the way he treated a lot of people back in the 90s. I remember that very, very well. Yeah,
that makes sense. I do kind of remember hearing that kind of stuff before. If for nothing else, definitely the TV aspect of it being separate from the movies.
Well, fair or not, his name was often associated with negative situations.
Yes.
Involving creative decisions, how personnel were treated. I'm not that well versed in any of that part of Marvel's history, but I mean, we've all worked for many years in different jobs, and there are people like Ike Perlmutter, unfortunately, in every profession.
Of course,
at varying levels with varying degrees of power. So whenever one of those people goes bye-bye, it's usually a good thing for pretty much everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Mind you, he was also the head, at least at one point, of the Marvel Toys division, aka Toy Biz.
Toy Biz.
Yep. Which, bought Marvel back in the day and didn't work out too well. Did not work out too well.
Shane, you remember the Toy Biz did that really impressive original X-Men box set, though?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was a nice set.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had that set myself.
Well, they also were the first. Wasn't the first wave of Marvel Legends figures under Toy Biz, or am I remembering?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It was. It started as a Spider-Man line of very highly articulated Spider-Man figures, and then went into Marvel Legends after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was them for years.
Yeah. Toy Biz. Does Toy Biz? Yeah, Toy Biz became defunct back in 2007. I think it then eventually became Marvel Toys. And then once Marvel had their licensing agreement with Hasbro, it essentially just ceased to be because there was no reason to have it anymore.
Ian, that reminds me, what happened to what was his name? Avi
Arad.
Yeah.
He's still around. Avi Arad is mostly doing stuff with Sony at this point. But I think he still has his feet in the Spider-Man well, because I still remember seeing his name as at least associated as executive producer on the most. Yeah, he's still listed as producer for Morbius, and he was even a producer on Uncharted. But he was an executive producer on Spider-Man: No Way Home, Far From Home. Producer on Into the Spider-Verse. So he's still very much involved with the Spider end over at Sony. Just not near anymore with Marvel because, Marvel's got their Feiges and everybody else on that end. Yep. Also, we should be seeing news soon come out on Deadpool 3 and its overall plot and story as we've been hearing some rumblings coming about of further announcements being made. Matthew McFadden, who's mostly known for his work on Secession, is actually coming on as one of the script writers for Deadpool 3. So that could certainly be interesting, as Secession's one of the best damn shows in the past 20 years, I feel like. Dynamite show.
Yeah, I've only seen the first episode of that show. Definitely my kind of meat, though.
It is. It's ending this year, so you can wind up binging it once it's.
It could be a summer pleasure.
Well, very true. Very true.
Which show was it?
Secession.
Oh, I didn't watch that yet.
Yeah. Secession just came back for a new season this week, actually, and immediately sat down to watch it. It's incredibly Shakespearean in the way that it's put together. In all the right ways, because you're basically watching like a surrogate for the Murdoch family.
Yes.
But it's like the entire script could have been written by Shakespeare. Like it's so like conniving and this guy hates that guy but loves this guy.
Yeah, they're all awful people.
Oh, absolutely. You just love it for how bad they all are.
Yeah, it's predatory capitalism at its finest.
Plus, Kieran Culkin is amazing in that show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got that just from the first episode. Yep.
Kieran's the Culkin who's probably getting the most work these days. Sure. His younger brother shows up occasionally, but Macaulay doesn't do much anymore. He can retire safely, I think. Not that he's not an excellent actor, which he is. It's just he did a good job of keeping most of his money. So he's got all that Home Alone money to make him very, very happy. So that's happening over at Marvel and DC. The only real news that I have for that outside of the movie that we'll be discussing a little bit later on in this episode is we did get the official announcement on who is going to be taking over the Flash once Jeremy Adams is all said and done. Not Jeremy Irons. He's
Alfred.
Exactly. He's Alfred. Jeremy Adams is moving on to Green Lantern, as we all know. Cy Spurrier and Mike Deodato are taking over the Flash. Did not see that one coming.
You think that's with 801?
That's what they don't want. 800 is going to be one of those like everybody issues.
Oh, okay.
Where they bring back everybody who's worked on the Flash in recent memory. So Mark Waid, Jeff Johns, Joshua Williamson, Jeremy Adams, and then I think even Todd Nauck is getting in on the action. Scott Collins is going to draw some stuff, and then Cy Spurrier is coming in. I think a new Flash #1, if I remember.
Ugh.
So they are going to be
Shane.
Bang, bang, bang.
Yep, just to make you happy.
It's issue 800, but it's really like 74.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Don't worry, Shane. They'll do classic numbering alongside the new one.
Of course.
I know it.
Just like they did with Batman, you know,
It's just painful.
it's a milestone issue, but it's also issue 23. You know,
Yeah.
that's the way it rolls.
It's a new #1, a great jumping on point, issue 1000.
Cy Spurrier did some great stuff with Detective Comics, so I'm happy to see him moving on to a character like the Flash, who as of now is supposedly still going to be Wally West as the main Flash, while Barry's off doing his own things. Whether or not it's going to stay that the entire time, we shall see. But Mike Deodato on artwork, like I can't wait to see what he's going to do with the Flash.
Yeah,
he's always been a very kinetic artist, and the Flash runs very fast, so that will help.
Sure does.
And of course, Mr. Tom King taking over Wonder Woman.
I'm sorry, I'm still reacting to you.
Oh, I know.
That was a timeless Leveroo. Holy mackerel!
That'll be great because he runs fast.
Exactly. Wonder Woman, Tom King.
Oh, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what he does.
Reminds me of like when Greg Rucka came on Wonder Woman back in the 2000s and how thrilling that was.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Tom King's take on Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and yet another issue, yet another book that's hitting issue 800. By the way,
Yeah.
Man, DC, man, it's hard to believe that books have been around long enough to hit milestones like that.
Well,
but
I'm starting to think of things like, okay, so when I was born, it was 72, and 20 years before that would have been 52, and I'm in 2023, and 20 years before that is 2003, which isn't all that long ago. I'm like so far away. I mean, I know, of course, you're far away from it as time goes on, but
oh yeah,
things that you could look back on and say, oh, well, that was just 20 years ago, back when Chris and I were kids, certainly, is so drastically different than now. Like, comics that have been around a long time. I have read a lot of comic books.
oh yeah.
And yet, in the soup of history, honey, it's still an eye blink.
It's nothing. It's
an eye blink.
Yeah. If you're lucky, it might be an eyelash
Yeah.
that falls. I mean, it's
Ooh,
nothing.
I like that.
52 over at DC. That was 2006. Let's just let that sink in for a moment. Like
Good yarn. 52.
oh, amazing. I mean, obviously it's Pansy's favorite, but it's
It sure is.
2006. I mean, we're approaching 20 years of 52.
yeah.
It's
Yep.
crazy.
And most of these creators, knock on desk are still at it. Like
Yeah.
tons of them are still in the biz and putting out some of their best work even today. Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, Mark Waid, and Keith Giffen are still churning stuff out. And I mean, the artists on that, Chris Batista, Eddie Barrows, Todd Nauck, Derek Robertson, Phil Jimenez, Dan Jurgens, Justiano, like they're Jamal, Mike McCone, Dale Eaglesham, they're all
Mike McCone.
Yep. So it's crazy how time flies. And I was also just reminded that it was 10 years since one of the shows coming up in a few days after we record this here.
Well, and even I posted recently on Facebook a picture of me and Murd from Wild Pig that was
great picture.
what 10, 12 years ago. That's insane.
I know it's
Just doesn't seem possible.
absolutely insane how time flies. Yep.
What's also interesting about the picture, Shane, is that Murd doesn't really age.
No. My God, I get grayer, a little bit heavier.
I mean, we're
sometimes
aging.
thinner.
He just seems to
Yeah.
kind of like.
He's timeless. He really isn't a time bubble.
Oh yeah, I mean, and not to mention, like, I mean, especially when I look at those like early CGS, photos, like when I was there for like Comic Geek Speak episode 100, and I look at it, like, yeah, I look like a college kid.
Yeah.
I look at myself today, and I mean, not only the fact that I have this glorious beard now, it's just like,
Yeah, it is glorious too.
Thank you, my friend.
Mhm.
It's just as is yours, by the way. It's scruffy in all the right ways. That's that's the way I look at it.
Oh,
Absolutely.
how kind of you to say so,
I
honey
have this
poo.
little thing, and I just got lazy this week. It'll go away.
Oh, you look great with a beard, Shane.
Yeah, I know. I'll grow one again next winter.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
listeners are like, why are they complimenting each other on their facial hair at this point? What's going on here with this show?
Because
Because
if they are not used to it by now, then clearly they have been listening.
we tend to talk about how old we're getting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll happen. It'll definitely happen.
Yep.
Talking a bit of media real quick. I got to see one of my favorite superhero franchises on the screen recently, John Wick.
I saw it last night.
Oh my God. John Wick.
I'm hopefully going this weekend.
It is a masterpiece, Shane. The last hour and a half of that is easily some of the best special effects and action fighting scenes that I have ever seen in a movie.
So without spoiling anything, Shane, this movie it's just, I mean this in the best possible way. It's completely ridiculous.
Yes.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it is one spectacular action set piece after another. And what I was really marveling at, and this is not giving anything away, and I'm sure Ian noticed this too, they're not trying to hide the fact that Keanu Reeves is in his 50s.
Oh, of course.
And like when you're watching him, because he's doing like virtually all of the stunts, including some of the ones in the car, which was insane.
Yeah.
And when he's fighting, you're like, you can see that like he's older.
Mhm.
And like the way he's moving, and it only makes it all the more gripping and powerful. Ian, do you agree? Like,
oh, absolutely.
And you know, they go all around the world in this movie: Berlin, Osaka, Paris. But what Ian is referring to, just I'll say, Shane, at the end, he has to get to a certain place. And the way they incorporate the city of Paris into this odyssey he has to go on.
Oh my God.
It is, I mean, it in some ways it's completely hilarious because it's so ridiculous, but like Ian said, the way they shoot the film and the way the grasp they have on the action, like Shane, there's one sequence where all I'll say is you're watching everything from above,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
it is absolutely gripping.
Yeah.
I love the action in the Matrix movies. I really only love the first one and some of the second one, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what, the special effects are astounding and it's fun.
Right.
And I never went and saw any of the John Wicks in the theater. And then one Christmas, well before the pandemic, I want to say I was at a Best Buy, which is a rare occurrence to begin with. And they had all three of the John Wick films for like $5 each with a digital code.
Nice.
So I snagged that up and put them on my Apple account.
Yeah.
And months and months later, I sat down and watched them all in a weekend. It was just so much fun.
It really is.
And then I didn't realize this, but Ben, my oldest, he watched them then, knowing that I had them. And then he came to me a couple weeks ago and said, "Hey, are we going to go see John Wick?" I'm like, "Yeah, if you want to. I didn't know you even watched them. Let's go."
It is such a theater experience, Shane.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw it essentially opening night. I saw it on the Friday that it came out with a near packed house at my local AMC, and you got to be there to watch other people reacting to it along with.
And let me add to that I saw it last night of this recording. So a Tuesday night in my local theater, it was packed.
Oh,
really?
On a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like there was a ton of people there.
The Dungeons and Dragons movie is coming out this week, which I also may see this upcoming Friday as we're recording this. But it's going to have to do really well to beat John Wick in its second week, because the hype for this movie is better than I think any of them up until now.
Wow.
Well, like you said, Ian, that I mean, it's the longest film I think so far of all of them.
Yes.
And they really went all out on the set pieces. Like it is. Okay. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've never been disappointed in when I was watching them. I was just amazed. I love that the world that they created for them to play in.
You get a lot more of that.
it was really, really interesting to me.
And mind you, like the world, and I mean this lovingly, at times makes zero sense.
Well, because there's never any police responding to anything.
Right. Right.
It's an alternate reality, and they make that perfectly clear, time and again in this. Like, I have no idea how the actual like monetary system works. Because one coin gets you this, but it also gets you that. Why isn't it 2 coins? Like, it doesn't make any sense on that one. But
that's only within their own little network. Anything outside of that has to be, quote, normal.
Exactly. Yeah. Donnie Yen.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
Is
phenomenal.
Best. I've never seen any of the IP Man or
I've seen some of them. He's great in them.
No, I haven't seen those either.
I need to. Ip Man, if I remember correctly, when the 4th and final Ip Man movie came out, it came out in 2019. It outdid Marvel at the Chinese box office.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Like that's how huge Donnie Yen is. And at the age of 59, the stunts that he is pulling.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
How old is Keanu Reeves now?
Keanu Reeves.
Oh, he's in his mid-50s, I think.
Definitely is. Keanu Reeves right now is 58.
Wow.
58.
Wow. He's a little older than I thought.
And the stuff that he's doing in this film.
Mm-hmm.
My God.
He had to train for 8 months in order to get in.
I believe it. Look, I've often said when I talk to people about this type of topic that he's probably the most dangerous man in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe probably also Tom Cruise, but
the sweetest too. That's the best.
I've heard that as well. Yes, but the training he's had to undergo.
Well, I think when he was prepping for John Wick 3, I was watching videos of him going through gun ranges.
Yep.
It was amazing what he was doing.
Oh yeah, I remember in the 3rd one, Halle Berry had to go through, I think, 8 months of dog training in order to actually get her character the way they wanted it to be and be able to use the dogs that she was assigned to in the way that they. In the film.
And Shane, there's a dog in this movie.
Yes, there is.
Oh.
There really is.
and it's not a spoiler to say. Yeah. It's not a spoiler to say that there is no dog deaths in this because they did that once. They were not going to do it again.
Yeah.
That's that's over and done with. That was the premise of the first one. It was not going to be the premise of the 4th one. And Clancy Brown is in this, and that just immediately makes it a better movie.
Nice.
Shameless Shane's favorites and mine.
Yeah.
So freaking good. I can't wait to see what you think of it, Shane. It's
cool.
Like it's just the fact that these 50-year-olds are making me look like I'm an 80-year-old.
You got to get on that bike behind you there, honey.
Oh my God, that's so much work.
I do. Trust me, I do. And trust me, it still ain't gonna make me as good as Keanu Reeves.
No,
that much is a given. The other movie that I saw recently, and I don't know if you guys have gotten a chance yet. Have either of you seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish?
No. I know it's streaming somewhere now.
It's on Peacock.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I didn't watch it yet.
Now
I've heard a lot of good things about it. Actually,
it is easily and I mean, I don't know if this means that much when I say it. It is easily the best in the Shrek universe, and I mean,
really?
I'm a fan of the first Shrek and even the second one. 3rd one was a little
Yeah.
But it completely pivots, and it doesn't even just pivot in story, but also in animation style. Let me bring up a picture here of what the animation style looks like.
This is the second Puss in Boots movie, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. And the easiest way to describe this is Puss in Boots' Logan. Because Puss in Boots as a character has gone through 8 of its 9 wives. And now we're seeing Puss in Boots as the cat is going through its 9th life, and whether or not whether or not the cat's just going to retire, or whether or not Puss in Boots is going to continue to be Puss in Boots. And the cast in this is superb. Obviously Antonio Banderas is back in Puss in Boots, but Salma Hayek is back as Kitty Softpaws. Kitty Softpaws.
You almost said soft porn for a second, but that's okay.
I thought that's where you were heading.
Oh, luckily no, but yes, Kitty Softpaws. The love interest. Florence Pugh is Goldilocks, and then Olivia Colman plays Mama Bear. And
quite a cast.
There's other bears in there. John Mulaney plays Jack Horner in this, and of course, my favorite, Perito, played by Harvey Gillen, who you might remember from What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show, as AKA Guillermo on What We Do. And he's also the voice of Nightwing on the Harley Quinn animated series, and does a great job there. But this is a much better movie than it ever deserved to be in a franchise like this, and it deserved being up for Best Animated Feature this year. And just the animation style goes Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse at times. Like whenever there's a fight scene, like first off, look at how luscious those colors are.
Yeah,
something else. Whenever they go into a fight scene, the frames drop a little bit, like into the Spider-Verse, so that you get like that stuttery style.
Yeah,
that makes it so special. And yeah, just overall, they did something new with this movie. It's good for adults as well as it is good for kids. So yeah, check it out while it's still available on Peacock, or give it a rental or what have you. It's definitely going to be well worth your time.
I sat down over the weekend and I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once for the first time.
Oh, what'd you think?
That was a lot of fun.
Good.
That was really a lot of fun to watch.
Delightful film.
Loved Ki. Oh my god, I always mispronounce Kiho. Say his name. Ki Hai Kwan.
Yes.
I always mess up the middle part. He was absolutely phenomenal.
And what was especially great about his performance was the range he showed. So, obviously when he's playing the sort of, woebegone, ineffectual husband, but then when the scene where they're at the awards ceremony and they're talking out in the alley, and he has such a gravitas to him.
Yeah.
He's talking to her about sort of their missed opportunities, and really impressive performance.
Yeah. Michelle Yeoh was great. Jamie Lee Curtis was kind of creepy.
Oh, she was fabulous.
Was just fabulous
in the role. Yeah, she's an IRS agent.
Yeah,
this really, hard done by IRS agent. So.
Oh my god! And the long fingers universe.
Oh, that was so gross. That was so gross. I turned away a couple times when they got back to the fingers universe. I couldn't watch these wiggly things. No.
My favorite universe, I think, is the raccoon Cooey. Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, and wasn't the actor who played that, wasn't he on Glee?
Yes, I believe. Okay. Yes, he was. God, let me find the name of the actor, because I love him whenever he shows up in anything. But yeah, he's been a dancer for years.
Yes, he's a fabulous dancer.
Which characters was he on Glee? I don't remember.
Oh man,
oh my god, I can't remember his name in that either.
Let's see. The name of the actor is Harry Shum. Harry Shum is the name of the actor, and he on Glee.
I haven't watched Glee in years, but
I'm in like season 4. I still haven't finished it.
He played Mike Chang.
Mike. That's
okay. It. Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. Fabulous dancer.
Oh, absolutely. And he's been in tons of stuff over the years. Also, as he's been in a few things. But he showed up on Awkwafina as Nora from Queens. He was in Crazy Rich Asians as one of the main characters in that. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Sword of Destiny. He showed up in, but he's been a voice actor on Star Trek Lower Decks. He played Brainiac 5 in the Legion of Superheroes movie.
Oh, that's right.
Long ago.
Shane, what'd you think of the Talking Rocks?
Oh my god, that was hilarious.
It really was.
I mean, talk about
hilarious and moving.
Talk about an absolute multiversal movie. I mean, that's as good as it gets. There has to be somebody out there that paused and counted every single universe that they jumped through, even when it was that stuttered, like really quick change parts.
Yep.
But boy, Ki-hye Kwan, it was amazing. Absolutely.
And most importantly,
amazing.
James Hong is in it.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who's been in everything since like the 1950s.
He was great.
Not to mention Stephanie and I'm apology if I mispronounce her last name, but Stephanie Hugh, the daughter.
Oh, she was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Is so.
She had a good range too.
Yeah, she does. Honestly, I'm glad Jamie Lee Curtis won an Oscar, but I would have preferred her win for Best Supporting Actress, because I think that although Jamie Lee Curtis was amazing in it, like Stephanie stole the show for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, she did.
And you're right, the range of performance from just playing the daughter to being, you know, the main villain and all that jazz, like it's something special there. And
I love Michelle Yeoh. Loved her in Discovery. I loved her when she was in the one James Bond movie. Mm-hmm. Anything I've seen her in, she's enjoyable, and she did great in this. But boy, I just thought Ki-hye Kwan stole the show.
And funny enough, you're going to get to see a decent amount of this cast again soon, to bring it back around the comics in the upcoming American-born Chinese TV series.
Really?
Disney, because Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie, Key, they're all in American-born Chinese in one way or the other.
Do I keep pronouncing Michelle's last name wrong? Is it Yeoh?
It's Yeoh. Yeah.
Yeoh. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's Michelle Yeoh.
Is James Hong going to be in that?
I don't see him listed.
Okay. I love that his wheelchair he was in turned into like a mech suit.
Yes.
I mean, just that movie was just a lot of fun to watch.
It is. Yep, it really is. And this American-born Chinese show, by the way, that comes out soon. It's May 24th.
Okay. Wow.
Comes out on Disney Plus, and I'm very much looking forward to that. That continues to be one of my favorite graphic novels that I've read over the years, American-born Chinese. And, you know, I mean, it's gotten accolades, and it basically, you know, launched a career for Gene Yang, who then, you know, went on to work for, you know, Marvel and DC and do various other projects, did some of the Avatar comics over the years, and created the Chinese Superman character, who is still in DC Comics today. In fact, actually just showed up very recently in Action Comics, which I'll be discussing later on today. But yeah, no, really glad you enjoyed it, Shane. Yep.
I'm looking forward to watching it again sometime.
All right, let's transition over to a movie that all three of us saw.
Yes.
And I'll put the spoiler warning in here now for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And again, if Murd does not join us, we'll get his thoughts on this next comic talk. That's
imperative.
Indeed, because he is our Captain Marvel expert. I might as well just call it Captain Marvel: Fury of the Gods, because they're not going to stop me from doing so. but it's called Shazam! Fury of the Gods. We had a decent amount of the original creators of the movie back for this second movie. David F. Sandberg back as director. Most of the original cast is back, except for Mary Marvel.
Yeah.
Does double duty in this movie.
Yep.
It's not a different person when she transforms this time around, but everybody else remained the same cast wise in their transformations.
Which I thought that was cool. I didn't notice it the first time as much, but I really enjoyed it this time that it was the same actress playing both parts.
I agree. I think she's striking enough to be able to play both roles, and also I think that the makeup was different enough where she still looked like she transformed. Like it's a little bit more regal and more pronounced and profound when she transformed into Mary than when she was just Mary.
Yeah.
So they did a good job of that.
Just at a great age to be able to do it both ways and be able to affect the performance enough.
Absolutely. Yep. I'll have the two of you go first, and then I'll go last on my thoughts on this one. But Chris, what'd you think of Shazam! Fury of the Gods?
I frankly really enjoyed it. I went into it with really no expectations at all. In fact, I was even debating, am I going to go see this, or am I going to still wait till it's on a platform? I thought, we're going to talk about the show. I should go see it. Because I found Black Adam kind of underwhelming.
Yeah.
So this I enjoyed far more than Black Adam. It didn't reinvent the wheel or anything like that, but I think it had the sense of fun and heart that Captain Marvel should have. And I thought that was very much an evidence in the first film, which I also enjoyed. And I thought this one was comparable to the original film. They have top actors. I mean, it's Helen Mirren, for Pete's sake. In some of these roles. But what really worked for me, first of all, was he's great as Captain Marvel. Like, I really love him in the role. The whole tone, just sort of the gosh golly gee whiz approach to everything. And I also really enjoyed the two kids, Billy and then is it Freddie who does Captain Marvel Jr.? Yeah,
Freddie.
So they were I thought really enjoyed their performance when they brought in the girl from West Side Story. I forgot her name, forgive me, to play one of the gods. I really enjoyed her chemistry with Freddie.
Rachel Ziegler.
Thank you. But it had an epic scope, which I think a Captain Marvel story should have, but at the same time, it was also rooted in sort of that goofy humor. And again, I've learned so much about Captain Marvel, primarily from Murd Spotlights.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read that much Captain Marvel in my comic book reading life, and just little bits here and there. So I was the best way to put it, I was thoroughly entertained. I didn't leave the movie feeling like, God, I wish I could get those 2 hours of my life back, which I felt about some other comic book films in recent years. I love their lair and like him trying to keep them all together, and I just thought it was delightful. It's not, I don't consider like one of the greatest comic book adaptations I've ever seen, but for what it's supposed to be, I think it hit the mark more or less. And as a side note, I was also kind of surprised, not negatively, by the body count in this film.
Yes.
Like a lot of people died in terms of, like they wipe out that whole museum in the beginning.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
So that was a little jarring. It didn't take me out of the movie. It was just, I wasn't expecting that. And then even like when all the mythological creatures come into the city, they're just slaughtering people.
Oh yeah,
left and right, basically.
Which is just funny because Zach Levy keeps saying and keeps trying to say this is a family film, and like, well, if you mean it's a 1983 PG, a PG movie back before there was PG-13, there's a very high body count in this.
Yeah, there's a lot of destruction.
Diedrich Bader jumps off a roof. Like oh
my God, I couldn't believe that.
That was like, me away. Whoa, they just like, I forgot about that poor teacher.
Yeah,
I thought for sure he was gonna somehow be saved, and nope.
Yeah, emphasize how evil these old Greek gods were. But I'm not gonna watch it over and over again, but I enjoyed it.
Shane?
I agree, and I was going to use the exact same words, Chris. It was entertaining and had a lot of heart. It didn't reinvent the wheel. It was very predictable in spots, but I enjoyed the chemistry the cast had. I enjoyed the hell out of that. It was set in Philadelphia and surrounding areas, and kept mentioning places and being places that I have been. I just thought it was a heck of a lot of fun. I too, Chris, wasn't sure if I was going to see it in the theater, and I had some time free up unexpectedly, and nobody wanted to go with me, which was kind of surprising unto itself. So I went by myself to go see it. And yeah, I was smiling ear to ear from start to finish. It was an enjoyable movie. I was thoroughly entertained. I thought all the actors did great. The action was good. The villains were at times mediocre, and I was surprised because, like you said, it's Helen Mirren, for heaven's sake. And it was fine. But I was more focused on the Shazam family characters and what they were going through.
Look at the still Ian has chosen. Look at the expression on Levy's face.
Yeah.
He's Captain Marvel.
Yeah. Like he just plays the role so well. I also, and I consider this 2 Easter eggs. I know there's one and it's very widely popular, but I also consider the other one too, even though it doesn't look quite the same. So what I'm talking about is the original actor who played Billy Batson in the old TV show.
In the red and yellow shirt.
In the red and yellow shirt.
He calls him Captain Marvel. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
But before that, when they're in the junkyard and the dragon lands on an RV Winnebago kind of looking thing. To me, that looks almost like the one they used in that TV show. It's not exact. I went back and looked. It's not quite painted the same, but as soon as they showed that, I'm like, oh my God, that looks like the Winnebago that they used in the TV show.
You're talking about the 70s show Shazam, right?
Yep.
So that actor who played the kid in the 70s show.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I thought those two little things were awesome.
And the reference to Tawny.
Tawny
in the beginning,
too.
Tawny. Yep. Me being in Pennsylvania, I'm looking at the license plates, the inspection stickers. I'm like, yep, they got that all down pat. That's all the way it is. They're on the Ben Franklin Bridge, which I've driven over 1,000 times. They're in Citizens Bank Park, and as they're destroying it, I'm like, yeah, I usually sit right there. Up there goes the seat. Nope, no more. Like it was. I just had a lot of fun with it. They're mentioning streets, they're road signs, and I've been these places. I got a kick out of it. I enjoyed it. It's in this way, it's very family friendly. It's very much about children and parents, and that always gets me. There were a couple times I teared up, just because of what they were talking about with kids and parents.
Moving on and moving out.
Yeah, just the way they were discussing things, and even though you know, there's the one part where the foster mother says, you know, just let me see my Billy, and he says Shazam, and he becomes Billy Batson. And then you know that when he goes to leave, he's going to say mom for the first time. And sure enough, he did. And I still teared up because it was sweet. I just got a kick out of it. I enjoyed it.
So here's where I Thor Love and Thunder this for you guys.
Wow.
That's harsh.
Yeah. Let me try to push myself into the correct mindset here. This is a filler comic. This entire movie, to me, when I sat down to watch it, I love the first Shazam. I think that movie completely blew me out of the water with expectations. I was expecting to enjoy it. I didn't expect it at the time to be essentially my second favorite DC movie that came out. To me, Wonder Woman is first and Shazam is second. And I was expecting, while I wasn't expecting this to be necessarily better than the first Shazam, I was expecting this to at least push that bar at least a little bit and give me things that, grew the characters, that made me very happy to see a second installment. And instead, I got a random filler issue in the middle of a long run. Just to put it in comic terms. I didn't hate it, but I didn't even come close to loving it. It's forgettable for me. And that's the worst thing you can be for me. Like, if I'm going to hate something, I have to at least have the heart to hate it, and I feel that way about a decent amount of the DC movies. Like, anybody who's heard me rant about Man of Steel or, Justice League or Batman v Superman, like, I'm invested enough in it to say my dislike for it and my distaste for it. This is just there. and I'm very disappointed in that. The villains in this had just about as much as depth as Christopher Eccleston did in the second Thor movie. Ooh. Like, they were just kind of there. And even though, like, they gave them backstory and it even made sense in the lore of Shazam, I didn't believe their motivations at all. I didn't believe their purpose. The fact that their sister, Anthea, played by Rachel Ziegler, just sort of just shows up, and immediately she's like, "I'm going to become best friends with Freddie Freeman," and then, "Oh, I became best friends with Freddie Freeman because I was here for a reason." Or was I here for a reason? We didn't make that perfectly clear. Was this pure coincidence? I don't know. Or either way, let's roll with it. This is how the movie's going from this point forward. Let's do it.
Well, so for that point, I do think she was there for a purpose because she knew that he hung out with Shazam.
Yes.
And Superman. So out of all the villains, I do think she had more of a purpose than the other two to be there.
No. And I will agree with you on that. It's just it felt incredibly contrived in the execution. And if you're going for 80s teen movie when a lot of stuff is nice and contrived with that, then I get it. I get what you're going for. It's just I was expecting so much better execution from essentially the same creators that gave me the first one, and I didn't get it. And that's just disappointing to me. Funny enough, too, Shane, 3/4 of this movie was filmed in Atlanta.
I know.
And I
everything,
almost, if not everything, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
it's either Atlanta or Canada. Yeah,
exactly. And with the special effect, like, because I mean, I've been to Philly tons of times. Obviously, probably not as much as you guys have, but like in recent memory, I've been in Philly, and I'm walking through, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. Where would this cheesesteak place be? That doesn't make any sense to me. And the closest they came was when they were at the ballpark. And you could tell that 3/4 of that was CGI, where they just ballpark around.
And I expected that though, so it was okay with me. I was happy with the mentions of things, and I thought the Ben Franklin Bridge was probably the closest realistic thing that they did.
Yeah, and I trust me, as a New Yorker, whenever I see New York shit on there, and mind you, that was my biggest problem with Scream 6. Like Scream 6 was filmed in Montreal, and I could tell because it did not look anything like Manhattan, Brooklyn, anywhere near area. And I don't know, it's just when it all comes down to it, I was at least hoping that this would have a justification to still exist, because like especially with what's happening at DC Films right now, that we're in a change period, and whether or not this was actually still going to matter in the long run of things.
Well, how has the movie performed financially?
Horribly.
It has.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what I expected from it, just because of the state of not only DC movies in general, but there was a lot of more interesting things out there in the last couple weeks. In my opinion,
that's true. The budget for this movie was anywhere between 110 to 125 million, and at this moment, according to Wikipedia, it has made back 103.4 million at the box office.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's a money loss for now. By the time it's out of the theaters, it will have made back its budget at least. But that doesn't account for marketing. It doesn't account for post production and any of those extra bells and whistles that were thrown in there. And the end credits scenes. And this might just be me here. That second end credits scene was almost offensive, because
I'm trying to remember what it was. What was the second end credits scene?
It was Mr. Mind.
Mr. Mind. They tease Mr. Mind at the end of the first one.
Yeah.
As if we're going to get
that's right. Okay.
This big Mr. Mind, setup for the second one. And then we get one scene where they make a joke about how it's a bug, and that's why it's taking him so much time to set up. But hey, maybe by the time we get to Shazam 3, something will happen here. And that's what I'm thinking to myself. Maybe by the time we get to Shazam 3, something will happen here, because I don't know, guys.
I was kind of thinking that Shazam 3 would if it would happen. And I think that's a big if at the moment.
Yeah. It very well still might, but yeah.
It might. But I would think like it would be him and the JSA and Dr. Mind and the Monster Society.
Well, they teased the JSA in the first post-credit scene.
Yes.
And I think it would be good if they did, because I want to see these characters. I won't disagree with you, Ian, in the fact, and again, I said it is fairly predictable, and it is forgettable in a lot of ways when it comes to the villainy of it. Yeah. I enjoyed the Shazam family acting and their scenes more than anything else. I think given the current state of the DC movies, I'm not sure even how much support they had even when this started.
Yeah.
Because of how underperformed the last couple DC movies have been.
And now that we
what do we think of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, now that we know more about the separation between Black Adam and Shazam.
Yeah, that makes it even worse.
Now, what is that about? Well, I'm not familiar with that. What's that about?
That first end credits scene was initially pitched for the Black Adam movie.
Oh, okay.
And it was vetoed by Dwayne Johnson because he wanted to face Superman,
right,
not Shazam. And that may be another thing that may have led to me being frustrated, is that, you know, we saw Black Adam. He's a member of the Shazam family. We even saw the Wizard.
Yeah.
Right.
There's not even a mention of Black Adam even existing in this when it's a contemporary film.
Yep.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too. Yeah.
And that was part of my problem with the Black Adam film, is how can you have Black Adam without Shazam at all?
Yeah.
What do we think of the Wonder Woman scene?
I enjoyed it, but it almost serves no purpose now. I thoroughly enjoyed it because I like those little things, but it really didn't serve any purpose.
Have they established it? Are they still going to be using her?
Not as far as I know.
Well, no. That hasn't been established one way or the other yet.
Okay.
Okay.
But mind you, we know that Ben Affleck Batman is going to be showing up in the Flash in one form or another.
Yeah.
And
I kind of thought Jason Momoa is really thinking he's going to still be Aquaman.
Well, his movie hasn't even come out yet.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Right.
Exactly. His movie hasn't come out yet. There's also talk of him potentially becoming Lobo at some point, which frankly I'm all for, because he would be an amazing Lobo. But
I'm sure he would.
He could easily play both characters. That it wouldn't be the first time that's happened in the world.
Yeah.
But nothing has been said one way or the other on whether or not they're still going to use her. I know from looking behind the scenes that those scenes were filmed in London, and David F. Sandberg was actually directing that remote. He was not on set in London. He literally Skyped in order to direct those, which is awesome that technology can do that now. But it felt so tacked on.
Mm-hmm.
Even the way that they were cutting between her and the rest of them was like, I'm not here with you. And we're not even going to bother to make it feel like I'm here with you. It's cool that they did it as a connector because, like I said, we didn't get many connectors in this outside of that. And the last time that we saw Superman, it was from the waist down in a Shazam movie because they couldn't get Henry Cavill. So it's cool that they got Gal Gadot for this.
And I at least appreciated that earlier scene where it was Wonder Woman, but it was the same midsection, kind of making fun of the last time they did that. So I get that. That was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as much as I enjoyed seeing Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman again, it really didn't serve much of a purpose at that point.
Yeah. If they'd done more with her, I know that they couldn't because she's quite literally a cameo. She shows up, does what she needs to do. And it even makes sense story-wise because, obviously they needed a god to try to bring back a god. But also, agree or disagree with me on this one, fellas, because I'd love to get your take on it, is he wasn't dead long enough for us to care. Shazam is dead for
however long it took him to travel there.
Well, it didn't bother me, but because again, I took this film just very lightly, but I agree with you in that it was very quick. He dies, the mother they show her grieving briefly, and then we're off to the palatial, God Mountain.
Yeah.
Where they are, but you knew he was going to come back because it's Captain Marvel. So it was hard to even take that death scene even remotely seriously.
I was actually surprised that they went through with it and had him die. I just figured he would be okay at the end of that.
Yeah, so did I.
And Billy takes the back seat for most of this movie.
That's the one thing I did miss out on seeing a little bit more of Billy.
Yeah,
I really, like I said, I really enjoyed Freddy's.
Oh yeah,
quite a bit actually.
He was great.
Jack Dylan Grazer's role as Freddie Freeman is easily my favorite in this. I've never really been a fan of Ashel Angel's Billy, especially when compared to Zach Levi's Shazam, because when he becomes Zach Levy, when he becomes all grown and all that, he's acting childlike, and then you see Billy moping around that he's about to turn 18 and that his life is in the crapper, but that's not how he's acting when he's Captain Marvel. he's still got that youthful exuberance.
Well, in the sequel, I'm sorry, Shane, go ahead.
No, you can see him acting like that a little bit because he's obviously troubled because he goes to the shrink,
right?
And he's trying to put up a good front for the rest of it. But I do think he's actually quite troubled with everything going on, and it's not until you get through most of the story of this film that he finds his way and really gets everybody to understand just what it means and how important it is to him and to them all as well, until they start losing their powers, threatening everybody's dying, or whatever it is that's happening. It's because of his, quote, leadership, even though he doesn't have the wisdom at that point.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie, he gets it. But I will agree, you kind of have to think about it a little bit. But that's how I took Shazam's character through this.
He's struggling with the fact that he feels like he's losing his family.
Yeah.
I mean, he's approaching that period of life where he's turning 18, plus he's also a foster kid, so there's that unmoored element of it too. And he's afraid that he's gonna, because life's gonna change, and which is a common fear many people would have at that time. So I think that was there throughout the film. Now to go back to Ian's point, if they make a third movie, he's going to be older.
Oh yeah,
you would start to assume he's going to, that the Captain Marvel alter ego will then have a different, I would assume, disposition as well.
Right.
Yeah. Also, and look, I know it's a movie, and I know that they weren't exactly being like grounded in one way or the other. Do we ever actually get an explanation on how the Wizard Shazam isn't dust? Did they actually ever explain?
Didn't he say something? I don't remember specifically.
I think he did.
Because
it's lovingly forgettable, the whole movie for me.
Exactly. I
can't. I want to say he said it to Freddy.
He did say something to Freddy. I just don't remember what it was in the cell. I just don't remember what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I actually really, he was my best part. He was my favorite part of the whole damn thing. Actually, that was Digimon Hansu. Is always terrific.
Oh,
sure is.
But
yeah, he is.
In this, like watching the transformation of the wizard, and then like suave wizard at the end.
Yeah. See, and there's so much that I won't disagree. It is kind of a filler issue, but it's an enjoyable one for me. But I do want to see what's next, and I'm afraid these characters won't get that chance.
Yeah, yeah,
and that will be disappointing.
I'm betting that at least the Justice Society is probably going to find a home.
So he would appear there probably then.
Exactly. Yeah. And if that's the case, then we'll at least have a member of the Shazam family, still being there. Just because I feel like James Gunn would have vetoed that mid-credits scene if they weren't going to do at least something with it.
I agree. I agree that he wasn't going to be included in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And mind you, this was not actually put into place by James Gunn. He also made that perfectly clear, is that decisions were made on this, or at least on the scene itself, before he took over. Mm-hmm. But they could have easily just nixed it from the entire movie if it wasn't
right.
And they did not. So there's that part. And I mean, there are parts that I do actually really enjoy. I think that last fight scene between Lucy Liu and Shazam was actually incredibly well executed. I like the bridge battle where the entire Ben Franklin bridge goes kablooey. Essentially, that was cool.
The Philadelphia fiascos,
and the practical special effects on the monsters. That was terrific. The stuff on like the centaurs and like the all the monster makeup that they used in this, because the director has a monster movie background, which is why it made perfect sense for him to go practical in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That all looked terrific, and that actually looked better than a lot of the special effects we see in Marvel movies because of that, because they went practical.
Yeah.
So that all worked for me. It's just, I just needed more, and I didn't get it. And, that's fine.
I can understand that, though.
Yeah. I hope the next one wins me back over and is perhaps even a better movie if we ever get it.
Well,
Levinstein, unfulfilled.
And I'm somewhat cautiously optimistic about what's coming for DC, but I would have still and maybe we will, but I doubt it, I would still like to get a Ben Affleck Batman movie with Jeremy Irons as Alfred. I still want to see the Shazam movies continue. I would have loved to have Black Adam be a little bit different because I was excited about that, but boy, if that would come back around, it's going to take a lot to win me over on that one, with how disastrous that last one was. So there's a lot of things that I enjoy about what's come out from DC the last few years. They're just not quite there yet. There's aspects of it. There's actors and actresses that are fantastic for the roles. The story's just not there yet. And this was just one of the more enjoyable spots for me.
Yeah.
But it was extremely predictable.
And also the new costumes I actually really loved. I think that the upgrades they made to it, with the visible lightning when they pop.
Oh, great, yeah.
That was an excellent touch, and I think those were vastly improved overall. And Helen Mirren was good, but also it took her 9 scenes to die. And that was very, very plot contrived along with it as well. But they needed somebody in order to move that part of the plot along and lower the Philadelphia Dome and what have you.
And in that regard, I was surprised because I did not expect her to turn on Lucy Liu. Mm-hmm. I kind of expected the youngest one to go side with Freddie and everybody, but I really didn't expect Helen Mirren at first to turn on Lucy Liu until you start getting into some of their discussions, and both sisters, the Helen Mirren and what's the younger actress name?
Rachel Ziegler.
Rachel Ziegler. And until they turn on Lucy Liu, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of an interesting twist. I didn't expect that, and I'm glad they did. It just seemed to. I think both of them could have taken Lucy Liu pretty easily and didn't. I know she had a dragon and all that, but still.
I did enjoy when Captain Marvel was trying to negotiate with Helen Mirren at the burger joint.
Yeah.
I thought that was very entertaining.
Yeah.
Also, missed opportunity that when he brought up Fast and the Furious to Helen Mirren, he didn't then just say, in fact, you look just like that actress that was in F9. Because lo and behold, she gets around. Helen Mirren is everything.
Well, I liked her. Wasn't she in the second National Treasure movie?
Yes. Yes.
I enjoyed that, and Excalibur. And,
that's my first time I knew of her as an actress. Was in
2001: A Space Odyssey. No, that's not right. 2010.
2010.
Yeah,
great actress. Great actress.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, and Billy having a crush on Wonder Woman, that actually comes from the comics. That's straight out of Power of Shazam.
Nice.
So, yep. Good.
Murd doesn't hold forth on all the ins and outs when he talks about the movie, no doubt.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So what do we give it? How many freaking swears per individual here?
I give it a solid 3.
I give it a high 3 or low 4. Like I really enjoyed it.
My friends, I know
you're going to go like a 2.
I give it a 2.
Wow. See, when we did Love and Thunder, which I really didn't care for.
Yeah.
You convinced me to give it a 2.5, Ian.
And look, it's not like I was upset that I was in the theater. It's not like I didn't enjoy parts of it, and it's not like I would ask for my money back immediately. It's just I've almost forgotten what I watched at this point.
That's fair.
See, I think I enjoyed this more than, certainly more than Black Adam. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it more than Ant-Man, Quantumania, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I enjoyed this more than I actually, in some ways, enjoyed Black Adam more, if only for the JSA parts. Because I go back to that, like the JSA parts of Black Adam are terrific. It's just the rest of it's there.
Yeah.
That's well put.
I won't disagree with that either.
Yeah, so that's a problem.
Could we pivot to something that we all think is great, which is Picard?
Yes.
Oh,
we definitely can.
That's phenomenal.
Now, so I know Ian, Shay and I are current. Ian's a few behind me, so we're not going to spoil anything specifically.
Oh my god, I don't know how. I just don't. Well, out of all the things that I watch in life, this is one thing that people who love Star Trek, and I'm sorry, Ian, this is going to sound really terrible. I don't know how you're not current, because I get up and I watch like 15 minutes of it here and 15 minutes of her at lunch, and then I finish at the end of the day, and then later that night I watch it again all at one time. It just
for me it's the Star Trek I've been waiting to watch for years with these characters. And I mean, I can understand why for Picard season 1 and 2 they didn't do this because they're they built up to it essentially. But from the very first episode, and as we're all a long time, lovers and viewers of these series, it's like, oh God, I'm home. Like this is so good. And I find myself, without spoiling, because I'm again, I don't want to bring up stuff in the last 2 episodes, but actually getting a little emotional in certain scenes because the weight of the relationships of these characters is so on display, and you feel both the history of their relationships as these characters, but also, I'm sure, subtly the actors themselves as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Shane. One more thing. Ian, you've seen Worf, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so when Worf is like one of my favorite characters in all of Star Trek, and when he first appears and he just beheads the Ferengi, I'm like, oh, this is so great! I'm so happy.
Spoilers for Picard.
Oh, come on,
it's fine. Yeah,
Pants isn't on the show. It's fine. So,
spoilers from this point forth on the first 4 episodes, since I haven't seen those.
Yeah.
But it's. And also the story is riveting. The stakes are so high. They're tying into all the other shows.
Yeah,
and there are some magnificent Easter eggs in the 6th episode.
Yeah, there's something that I have to ask you, Chris, somehow offline to see what you think. And Ian, I'll talk to you about it when you see it.
I know what you're going to ask me. You can text me. But what I also love is they're tying this into what I mean, I think Shane agrees, what I consider the greatest Star Trek story of all time, which is the Dominion War.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that they're going to that, and they're bringing in one of the greatest opponents of the Federation in any of the shows, which is the Changelings.
Yeah.
Who are even more powerful at this point.
I really want to see somebody from Deep Space Nine really come in the show before it ends.
Well, that would be amazing. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised that if Rene Auberjonois was,
he'd be on it, he'd be on it without question. Because Worf mentions him, subtly,
and there's a picture of him in one of the scenes too, I think.
No, I wish they had just brought on his son, because his son looks so much like him, and he's an actor.
I'll have to look. I don't know that if I ever saw his son.
Let me bring him up. I've actually seen him on the stage, his son, and he's been terrific.
I can remember seeing Renee in Benson. That was my first time. Him and Ethan Phillips, who played Neelix, he was on Benson as well.
He
was a photographer.
That's right.
And I think wasn't Renee's character named Clayton in Benson? Maybe
I don't remember.
I'm gonna have to look that up. Then
he was the pontificating aide.
Yeah,
Benson.
This is Remy Auberjonois.
He looks.
Wow,
it's a spitting image.
Yeah, and Remy I've seen on stage a couple times, and he's been outstanding.
Nice.
Maybe they'll bring him in at some point. But I got into Star Trek later in life. I had seen bits and pieces of Next Generation growing up, but I was too young, honestly, to get fully into it because, by the time it had finished airing, that was like right when I remember Voyager ending more than I remember a lot of Next Generation. I remember having nightmares from that devolving episode of Next Generation, like where they. Oh,
that's one of the worst episodes in the entire series.
But for like an 8 or 9 to see it, and like I literally had nightmares that night about it. It was ridiculous. But I eventually went and I watched all of Next Generation. I watched all of Deep Space Nine. I still have I think 3 seasons of Voyager, 2 seasons of Voyager to go that I'll get to eventually. But I've seen all the movies. And I've seen all the modern movies. Plus, I've seen I'm on the most recent season of Discovery. And finish that. Plus, I've seen Lower Decks and all that jazz. But Picard, up until now, was like, oh yeah. Each season,
the second season, yeah. Whew, oh boy.
Second season started off so strong.
Yeah, that went nowhere.
I haven't even finished the second season. I lost interest in it, to be honest with you.
There again, a lot of neat things because they bring in certain characters here and there, and that's great. But boy, did that go nowhere.
Yeah. Like the fact that, I mean, again, spoiler for last season, but that, that Whoopi Goldberg came back for at least a little while.
Oh, it was awesome.
It was terrific. And the scenes with her were great. But then the rest of the season was just like, is there going to be any story? Like,
yeah. And I like the first season too. It had its problems, but I enjoyed it.
The Borg Queen was the best part of it. And unfortunately, we've since lost the actress because Annie
She just died. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly, and she is one of my favorite character actresses. She was on a season of 24 and did a terrific job on that. She was one of the main characters of Timeless, one of my favorite time travel shows, and she played the Borg Queen here and did a wonderful job of it. But this season has been, and they intended it to be so, and I'm sure you guys are going to agree, is that it is the Next Generation movie that we always should have gotten.
The last thing they should have done together.
Yeah, this is the farewell.
Yeah, this is their love song.
Yeah.
Yes. But what they have to do after this, more than anything else, and I say this as Discovery has been canceled, after that, this is going to be the final season of Discovery that's premiering after this. They have to move on. They have to move forward, and I do not want to see another series set in quote unquote the past after this, because now that we know what Discovery's future is, if the next series isn't set somewhere after that timeline, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed.
So you think after Discovery?
Yes, because that's.
I don't necessarily need it after Discovery. I get it.
Yeah,
and if it's there, I'll watch it.
I haven't even watched Discovery yet, honestly.
The let's see.
Strange New Worlds I loved. The
first two seasons I enjoyed them more than the next two.
See, I'm loving this current season of Discovery.
It's fine. I enjoyed it. It's adventurous. It's good, but I enjoyed the first two more.
The most recent season to me actually feels the most Star Trek out of any of the seasons that have happened up until now.
I'll agree with that, and that's because they can play in this wide sandbox. They have no restrictions whatsoever.
Yeah, but
really,
even fine. You know what? Even if we have a series that's set after Picard, that's perfectly fine. I just don't want us to play in the past much longer.
Yeah,
because Strange New Worlds, no matter how much I love it, we're eventually going to get to the end of Pike, and that's it, end of show, because everything else we know happened.
Right.
So the Star Trek universe has to avoid the fatigue of prequels and actually give us new and exciting things.
Yeah, and I think the fun part about Lower Decks is it can be very irreverent.
Yes.
And fun. So that can go on for quite a while longer.
Absolutely.
Without me worrying about getting tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't they producing another film with the movie cast?
Supposedly.
They keep saying they're gonna do it, and then it winds up losing a director or losing a writer.
Yeah.
It's been in purgatory for a while now. So we don't know if it's ever even really.
I wanted to see Tarantino's Star Trek. My God.
That would have been in something.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's one of the greatest living film directors. So.
Oh yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that.
It would have been at least one scene where Uhura's feet is very visible. That's
but I can't stress enough to watch the credits in Picard and just enjoy it as things unfold.
I noticed that, Shane, as you said that.
It's so there are certain things I know that if I don't want to spoil it. If I knew certain things that I wished I would have learned when I was younger, I could have picked up on them sooner from the credits.
Okay.
And you may be able to discern from that what it is. However, the things that are very subtly put in there just to look like they're fun really have a point. And when you realize it, you're like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense now. And it was there the whole time.
You know how good I feel now because you said however. It's just those continuity, man. Just the other thing is that I think we sometimes might forget, because it's been so many years, how good all the actors are in the Next Generation cast.
Yes.
Well, there have been Star Trek actors over the years who really aren't that great as actors. Mm-hmm. They're all superb actors.
And they've all been close all these years. Yeah. They've all kept in touch and all done things together and hung out and guest starred on different things. They've really really were this tight knit family. It seems like
plus LeVar Burton's daughter is playing his daughter.
Which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Now I would hope, not just for this show but for everything, Patrick Stewart should get an Emmy nomination.
I would hope so.
His acting is tremendous in this season.
I would hope so, especially since this may very well be his last acting performance outside of voice work, because he's getting up there in years. He's almost 90, and it's amazing to me that he's even able to pull this off. I mean, we were just talking about James Hahn.
And even think about this:
years old.
They did it back to back with the last season.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. There was some interview I saw with Jonathan Frakes where he talked about how they did all their shooting with Patrick Stewart early in the day, not because he completely would be I guess a little bit because he would be tired, but it just worked. He's an early riser, he said. They got all his stuff in early, and then they went and filmed other stuff later. But they were doing it kind of at the same time that they were doing season 2, because when season 2, I can't remember when it premiered or when it ended, it was only a few weeks after that where they announced that all of Picard was done filming, including the 3rd season. So It's been done for a long while now. They just finished it up and then released it now.
How many episodes is it going to be, Shane? 10?
I want to say just 10. I think they're all 10.
Yeah, I believe 10 is correct on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's neat to think that they did it all together. But even just a young person, that would be exhausting, doing 2 seasons back to back. I can't imagine some of them weren't integrated together with filming this for the end of season 2 and then filming this for the beginning of 3 on odd off days or what. Like, it had to be exhausting.
By the way, I almost forget, I really enjoy the actor playing the captain of the Titan.
Yes, I was just going to say Todd Stackhouse.
He's superb.
The stuff out of Captain Liam Shaw that we saw, especially in episode 4, because again, I just watched that last night. That's where I am. And to me, that actually, if that had been the final episode, I actually would have been very satisfied, because there's enough that happens in that gives me closure as a Star Trek fan.
Yeah, but there's so much more great stuff after that.
And there's so much that, from his perspective, it really shows you that, at least for our purposes as the audience watching it, that the crew of the Enterprise, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, they have the bulk of the adventures. Your other starships really just do go about normal life.
And what's interesting about that, I was thinking of as too, Shane, is that, and they emphasize this in this season, I think, very well, within that world, those characters are all legends.
Yeah.
Like when Michelle Hurd sees Worf, she's like, oh my God, you're Worf. Like, they really established that their exploits are obviously far above what most people are.
But I love when Captain Liam Shaw also kind of pokes Picard and Riker at different times, saying, "Yeah, you guys are
because he's a by the book officer.
It's your own fault too. Like, there's a lot of that going on too, where the rest of the universe realizes that, wow, these guys have saved the universe. These guys are great. They're legends, but they kind of cause half of it too. So they're solving their own problems, which they should do anyway because they caused them in the first place. But it's a lot of fun to watch.
My main takeaway from the show, outside of it being, again, so far so good, is I'm still not entirely sold on young Mr. Son Picard. That
young Mr. Crusher.
Young Mr. Crusher. That he kind of reminds me a bit of Clone Picard.
A little bit.
The way that they've been setting him up. And I know that there's plenty more to come, because I know in that final scene of episode 4, we get a whole Jean Grey style "my mind" thing as he's seeing like flashes of craziness going on. That clearly there's more to Jack than we 100% know.
In the next 2 episodes, they go into that.
Yeah, they go into that, and I do think that will have a greater impact as the rest of the season goes on.
And by the way, doesn't Beverly say at one point her other son is dead? Doesn't she mention that? Within the first 4?
She doesn't say he's dead. She just says he's lost.
She's not talking about him.
No.
No, she's
Will
literally
Wheaton's character.
Yeah. She doesn't know about the whole Traveler stuff.
Right. She just thinks he's lost.
Yeah, like to her,
what I forgot about. What is this we're talking about? I totally forgot about this.
Well, so that's the end of season 2 to a certain extent.
All right.
Well,
you find out a little bit about that.
In Next Generation, I don't know if you remember, but in Next Generation, he's taken by the Traveler to become like a new Traveler.
I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah, that's season 7 when they're on the one planet that's annexed by the Cardassians and the Federation when they kind of split during the Dominion War kind of thing.
Just look at him as Doctor Who now. That's basically
yeah.
He's Doctor Who, and he gets to go on whatever adventures he wants.
And I actually enjoyed some of those explanations we got in season 2 as well.
Yeah,
for what that is, because that also tied into a earlier Star Trek thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the high parts that you should watch of season 2, Chris.
Okay. I stalled out at about episode 4 or 5, something like that.
Okay.
So. Watch the last episode. Just watch the last episode. That's fine. Just watch.
It gives you a good synopsis of everything that goes on.
Yeah. It'll even be a previously at the beginning of the episode. So
yeah. But no, I'm just thoroughly enjoying it, and I also like, and you see it in the early episodes of this season 3, where as these characters, these comrades have gotten older, they're a little bit more on equal ground to a certain extent, because you have Riker like, Jean-Luc, can't you see what we're seeing? Tell me, like, being like, hey, dummy, look, it's obvious about certain things and procedure and being a captain and making decisions. Like they are on more of an equal ground now with Riker's experience as a captain and what happens afterwards in his life.
Yeah.
So these characters in their own universe, like so many things, they grow and change, and you're really getting that from these characters when they start to interact together. It's great to see them all together, and I think the actors as well as the characters they play are happy to see each other again, but they're not the same things that happened at the end of All Good Things either.
No, of course not. Yeah.
And they shouldn't be, and it just makes the story that much richer.
Two things of note that I'll bring up. One, in the last episode that I just watched, one of my favorite moments, and Jerry Ryan has been
phenomenal.
One of the best things about this entire series, Picard, and watching 7 of 9 evolve and become a complete character. Because in Voyager, she was only part of character because she was basically relearning how to be human.
Right.
And now she's long since done so. But there's a scene near the end involving the changelings where, you know, she knows that one of the characters is a changeling because she doesn't call her
right.
Yes. Yep.
And that, to her, that's an honorarium, you know, to call her by her name. Her name is 7 of 9 to her. And I love that. And the character is so complete. The other thing that I love is the back and forth between Raffi and Worf. And I can't wait to see more of that as the series progresses. So that's been good stuff.
No, I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah. And I'll go back to watching Discovery once I'm caught up here. I might even watch another episode, sometime tonight before I head to bed, just because I'm kind of jonesing.
Man, you're bold, buddy. You got to get up early.
I know.
and don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed every season of Discovery too. I thought that's been a very enjoyable show throughout its entire existence, from start to finish.
Season 2 of Strange New Worlds, I can't wait for.
Is that
June
this summer?
15th? June 15th.
All right.
That and Lower Decks. Oh, I can't wait.
Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks have been pre-renewed for extra.
A third, yeah. I can't wait.
Wow.
Can't wait.
All right. Well, we interrupt your regularly scheduled episode of Comic Geek Speak for more Comic Geek Speak. As this is being recorded about a week after we recorded this most recent episode. So apologies for the continuity disruption of the fact that I've gotten a haircut since the last time that we recorded. But nevertheless, the reason that I'm putting this in here is that we were just talking Star Trek. And since the last time we recorded, there has been some news on the Star Trek front that is relevant to this conversation. They officially announced on March 30th that Star Trek Starfleet Academy is going to be the next show in the Star Trek extended universe that Paramount Plus has been putting together. And this one in particular is incredibly relevant for what we were talking about, because as I stated, I would personally be very happy if they continue to move forward in the universe. As once again, spoilers for Star Trek Discovery, that series takes place in what is essentially the future of the future, in a world where there has not been a federation for quite some time, and now they're working on building it back up. And this Starfleet Academy show is going to be set in that timeline, as we very recently learned. Noga Landau, creator of CW's Nancy Drew and writer on Sci-Fi's The Magicians, will be co-show running this along with Alex Kurtzman. And the logline specifically says, admission is now open to Starfleet Academy. Explore the galaxy. Captain your destiny. For the first time in over a century, our campus will be reopened to admit individuals a minimum of 16 Earth years or species equivalent who dream of exceeding their physical, mental, and spiritual limits, who value friendship, camaraderie, honor, and devotion to a cause greater than themselves. This doesn't necessarily mean we're done with the 25th century. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're done with the Picard era after Picard is all said and done with. However, this is firmly stating that we are also not done with the world of Star Trek Discovery, even though that is now heading to its final season. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if at least a few people from the Discovery ship wind up in the Academy roster for teachers. Perhaps Tilly, that would be certainly a good addition there. Maybe even further members of the cast as well to go along with that. Michael Burnham, perhaps as a teacher, or at least as an occasional appearance. You never know. But just super duper happy to have this announcement come out shortly after our previous recording. And yeah, as we catapult into the 32nd century for this show, it will rob us of having Mr. O'Brien as a Academy teacher, which I kind of always hoped would be the case if they were to set something during the Picard years, but that unfortunately will not be the case with this. Executive producers include Aaron Bayers, Jenny Lumet, Rod Roddenberry, Trevor Roth, Frank Siracusa, and John Weber. And obviously it's going to be produced by CBS Studios with Secret Hideout and Roddenberry Entertainment, as have the last couple. And Gaia Violo, creator of Prime Video's thriller Absentia, will be an executive producer on this new production. I certainly hope that there's more Star Trek news to come with other shows to broaden it, because it seems like they're definitely investing a lot into this universe. Even if there aren't any movies to come, at least we definitely still have plenty of TV to wet our collective whistles. We now return you to the episode that has already been recorded and me having disheveled hair. That is going to be great stuff that I very much cannot wait for. We have a wealth of riches as nerds these days, as geeks, there's so much good stuff. And and I know that this isn't Star Trek, but recently they let us know that Invincible season 2 is coming soon. The animated series is coming back for that. And for me, that's one of my favorite things in existence. And season 2 of that animated series is going to be coming before this year is out. So yeah, we're good. We're good. Like, we got plenty of stuff to look forward to. Guardians coming soon. Like, yeah, all great stuff. And eventually I'll catch Star Wars. And then we can talk about that, Shane. Because
I really feel like I'm going to be sad at Guardians 3.
Yeah, you think so?
I really do. I think that's going to be heartbreaking at the end.
Okay. Yeah.
Bring your hanky, Shane.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the source, shall we, gentlemen? What are we reading?
There we go. Shane, what do you got?
So I did read I have a trade paperback of it. Like I don't have 17 different copies of it. I have a trade paperback of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I read the first 2 issues of that. I'm
merge.
trying to go through it again, just for fun. I haven't read it in years, and even in the first issue, there's things in it that, as I'm getting older, I'm picking up on and have a different meaning for me. And this is going to be a little bit morbid, but I forgot that in the first issue, at some point early on, they talk about, somebody mentions how a universe dying has this death rattle to it. And I'm like, I read it. I'm like, okay, death rattle, whatever. But having gone through, parents passing away, friends, relatives, hearing different things, that phrase alone has a very different meaning to me now.
Sure.
And I'm just noticing that, not to sound like an old fart, but as I mature, as I'm getting older, even this story has a different impact on me than what it did the last time I read it on the show.
How could it not? You're a middle-aged man, right? Absolutely.
And thinking about how much I love this style of artwork, and I don't even mean George Perez, although this is beautiful as always. Just the classic 80s kind of art style that DC Comics has that I love, that I don't think is always my taste these days with the art. It's fine, and I like some, but there's a lot that I just don't like anymore.
Shane, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's something evocative about 80s superhero art.
Yes.
That I think you're seeing in a World's Finest right now by, is it Dan Mora?
Yes.
I think that has a feel to it that is reminiscent of this time period. I'm assuming it's conscious, but maybe it is. I don't know. But I've read only Crisis Course maybe a couple times. I've been meaning to reread it for the reasons you are nicely elaborating on, because that book is so rich, and plus I've learned so much hearing Murd and Peter talk about it over the years in different recordings. And there's so many layers to peel back in that book. But
I've always
go ahead.
Go ahead, finish.
No, just like in that first issue, when you see like the little kids running and like that whole reality is wiped out. I mean, it's inevitably going to have a different effect on you. Yeah. As an older person with more life experience. But look at that. Look at the great page Ian just selected.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so wonderfully 1980s.
It is.
Like the colors, like look at Captain Marvel. Like it's beautiful. I mean,
I know they only had what do they call it? 4 colors back then, or what? It was more limited coloring, but it's still so vibrant and so, I don't know, alive to me. And some of that might be my own nostalgic rose-colored glasses.
Part of it, sure.
Yeah. But because especially once they introduced, digital coloring in the 90s, you even saw it on animated series. Watch season 1 of Pokemon and compare that to season 12. Once they had gone digital coloring, and the entire palette of the show changes, and you can see it. And the same can be said for comics. Look at an X-Men issue from 1998 and compare it to an X-Men issue from 1976. And the artwork is going to be beautiful in its own way, but you can tell the difference in the coloring 100%, because you're going to have those extra textures in there that you wouldn't have otherwise. You're going to just have extra depth, but it does change the artwork, and what you grew up with has that natural nostalgia.
Yeah, and things like, I know I it's no secret, and I've been on talking about it on occasion. I am not a fan of the artwork that they were using for this new Tim Drake Robin series at all.
Funny enough, before the series ends, they actually just changed artists on that for the next couple of it.
I think the covers look great, and then you get to the interior, and I'm like, no, it's just not for me. People like it, that's fine. Hey, everyone has their own taste. It's just not for me. But going back and reading something to me, which is, and I know for so many people, it's so classic. It's really just thrilling to look at it again and stare at it a little bit. And some of this leads into the only recent issue I read in the last week, which was Action Comics 1050. Great story, very interesting way to kind of start this new era of DC with Superman in particular. Not a fan of the art very much. It's okay, but to compare it to what I'm reading in Crisis, there is no comparing. just not my thing. And,
well, you're also talking about Perez, who's one of the icons.
Right,
of
and I get that.
Yeah.
But just the way people draw things in recent years, the last year or two even, and current, I just don't enjoy it as much as what I do things that came before.
See, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that in particular, Shane, because I would have agreed with you up until the past couple of years. With guys like Mora and Redondo and even like I'm gonna be mentioning some stuff about Action Comics in a little while here, and the artwork on that is just completely blowing my mind. But it's not your typical superhero artwork, but it's its own bag and does such a terrific job with what it has. So really it just completely depends on what you're looking for in a book and what your personal preference is. But I just feel like there's just way more styles in art than there ever used.
Some of it I have to keep reading with what's coming out in Action Comics and some of these other newer DC books and some of the Marvel books I've been wanting to read, because like for this Action Comics 1050, there's a bunch of different artists on it.
Yep.
So I want to see what happens afterwards. I'm still going to read a lot of it because I'm interested and I get the app anyway. So that's why I have the app to read it. Love the story. I just was not as big a fan as the art. I was hoping for it to be a little bit cleaner for me, but it may change as I read on to some of these other new things that are coming out.
Yeah. No, that's perfectly fair.
Suddenly I am redeemed.
Hello, Mr. Adam.
The hands go up in rejoicing.
Your redemption is at hand.
Huzzah.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Murd. Welcome back.
Murd, we were just talking about what we've been reading.
Yep. Just before I throw it over to you in any way, shape, or form, Murd, did you get a chance to see Shazam yet?
Indeed, I did.
Okay, terrific. We will throw it back to you in a moment. I just want to make sure that Shane finishes up what he's been reading, and then we'll get your thoughts on the movie. So.
Yeah, nope, that was it. Was just the 2 issues of Crisis on Infinite Earths and the issue of Action Comics to kind of get jumping onto the new DC era stuff.
Yep,
and that's it for now.
Okay, cool. In that case, let's throw it back a little bit further. Just to note, yet again, there will once again probably be a few spoilers for Shazam: Fury of the Gods here. We already said our thoughts. Chris and Shane were way more positive on it than I was. I called it a filler issue. I thought that it was kind of it was there, and then I almost entirely forgot about it after I left the theater.
Mm-hmm.
But Murd, I'd love to get your thoughts.
It was that kind of popcorn movie in that it's about as substantial as popcorn and about as quickly digested and forgotten as. Yep, it's a pretty. The filler issue analogy is a pretty good one, Ian. Let me start by saying that I went to see this thing at the theater where it used to be part of the same mall where the old Golden Eagle store was.
Okay.
The Fairground Square Mall, and most of that mall has been razed. Like the anchor stores are still there, but they're not anchoring anything. They're just
they're just freestanding. Yeah. I was over there the other week. It's bizarre to look at it now.
Yeah, I know. But it looks like the limbs or organs of a living organism that are just kind of holozoic now. Just trying to exist on their own, independently of each other, and it is bizarre. Yes, but I went in there undercover at night. It was a 9 p.m. showing on a Thursday. This thing had not been out for quite a week yet, and I was the only one in the theater.
Wow.
So that gives you an idea of how steeply its fortunes decreased after its opening weekend. It didn't do that well during the opening weekend, from what I hear.
No, it didn't.
But yeah, it's a movie that I guess people hadn't really been longing to see, and the recent announcements about the restructuring at Warner Brothers and the DCEU and whatnot, and this thing being kind of a lame duck of a movie, a vestigial organ of a now extinct species of DC filmmaking, didn't help drive people to the theaters either. But I went, and I sat myself down in the only occupied seat in the theater, sat through about a half hour of previews, and finally got to see this thing. And, I did derive at least a few moments of true enjoyment out of it. I will give them credit for. You had said before, Ian, that you thought the visual effects were pretty strong.
Yes,
and I thought there were some pretty good creature designs, at least when the tree of life, what I like to call the Harryhausen tree, was planted in the middle of Citizens Bank Park, and it produced those monster pods out of which hatched creatures of various world mythologies to rampage around the streets of South Philly. That was a pretty exhilarating sequence, I thought. There were some strong creature designs there, and it was a fun use of the setting, of the location. And I do kind of like the kids of the Shazam family. They're decent characters, but on the whole, I think my reaction to this movie was one of impatience. I was sitting there, I was waiting for something more to happen or something other to happen from what I was seeing on the screen. The antagonists, I have to admit that the Daughters of Atlas, or the Hesperides, as they were called in the actual ancient Greek myths, they're a pretty good choice of antagonist for the Marvel family. I can totally see like a classic Fawcett-era Captain Marvel story based on the daughters of one of the Shazam elders, Atlas in this case, showing up and causing trouble for the Marvel family. It's just a group of characters who are freely adapted and kind of indiscriminately sourced from one or more world mythologies, showing up and just filling a few pages of with their antagonism for the Marvels. It's the basic premise is something I think that the old Fawcett writers might have tried, but how the way the villain characters were brought to the screen was not especially satisfying. Helen Mirren, she was game as always. She put in a pretty satisfying performance for such an insubstantial villain. Lucy Liu did a good job of making you hate her character as much as she probably did. And then there's the third one, whom I had figured out the instant she appeared on screen, and she and Freddy had their little meet cute. It's like, oh, okay, this one's going to be connected to the villains in some way, and I can see no other reason why this girl would be falling for Freddie Freeman at this point. And so yeah, there was a certain amount of predictability going on there. And then the Daughters of Atlas, like I said, but conceptually they're a good choice of villains for these characters, but the way they were brought to the screen was a little bit lackluster. And then there was the Marvel family themselves, and I feel like the other members of the Marvel family both got too much and too little play, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that the amount of screen time they got and the way they were we were shown them pulling in their own individual directions, and Billy having his little anxiety attack about the family breaking up, and all or none, that whole thing. It was just kind of a standard textbook comedy sequel kind of plot situation, and it's just, I feel like we didn't get enough decent moments for the other Marvels, and the moments we did get were basically just serving to illustrate Billy's own neuroses and such. So not enough good individual play for the different Marvels, and the play we did get mostly just served to distract from Billy.
Yep.
So yeah, not exactly a winner in that regard. I'm still troubled by how, and I understand why they did it, because it's entertaining, I guess, for a certain demographic in the theater, but having Billy act as goofy and clueless as he did, to the exclusion of the wisdom of Solomon that he is supposed to have, it annoyed me in the last movie, and it annoyed me even more this time. Because, they've even made it a plot point. They actually addressed it in the dialogue that he has not a shred of the wisdom of Solomon in him. So what's that S thing at the beginning of his magic word supposed to be then? Yeah. The idea is, I can understand that each of the different Marvels are supposed to have the Shazam powers in different measure. Like, for example, Darla in the purple suit, she's the speediest Marvel, so clearly she leans pretty heavily on the speed of Mercury. Know-it-all Mary, who reads theoretical physics for fun, has Solomon in her corner. Pedro has a lot of the strength of Hercules, etc. So it's understandable that each of them has their Shazam elder of specialty, but that they should each have at least a little bit of the other 5 powers at their beck and call. And here's Bill, the wizard himself, saying that he has none of the wisdom. Okay, fine, great writers, you addressed that in the dialogue, but why though? Why does he not have this this rather important superhuman mental ability that he's supposed to have? Just when you break one of the core rules of a character for comedy's sake, you're doing something wrong. I'm sorry. That is comedy too dearly bought, my friends.
The S stands for hope. Don't we know this about DC Comics? The S stands for hope.
The S stands for sure. Just like Captain Marvel is spelled Shazam, right?
Oh, God, I'm enjoying this.
I thought the actor who played the old wizard did a pretty good job here. He got to, show his comedy chops a little bit, which I was fine with. The bit at the end where he, gets the makeover kind of had me grinding my teeth pretty hard, though. And then when he finally tells Billy that his superhero name is Shazam, that was the moment when I elected to unleash a double-barreled bird at the movie screen. And why not? Because I was the only one in there. There's no one to be offended.
Yep.
I can picture a wrathful Murd flipping two birds at the movie screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Exactly the kind of thing that, earns the birds of Murd.
The birds of Murd. I
This is
love
the
it.
most satisfying movie reviews I've heard in some time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And your thoughts on the end credits and end credits?
Well, I very much enjoyed Mark Strong as the bearded and hopeless, despairing Savannah, as Mr. Mind shows up to say, hey, you know what, I'm ready to put our plan in action. Oh, but wait, I gotta go do one other thing. Probably for several years and possibly forever, because there might never be another one of these movies. So there was a certain ring of metatextual irony in that scene. I thought that one was pretty cool. And then Billy, doing target practice at an abandoned gas station out in the middle of the forest, where he's come to be recruited by the two most affordable cast members of Peacemaker. that was kind of random and unfulfilling. And Shane, I have to come around to your point of view here. You were annoyed in Black Adam that the Justice Society appeared to be just Waller's personal attack dogs, like her own little generic version of the Justice League on retainer.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that these two show up to recruit Captain Marvel for the Justice Society, it kind of bears that out. You were right all along, Shane.
I think it's a little strange that they did that. I did enjoy it because I like the extra credit scenes, but I didn't mention this when I talked about it. I didn't like that he was there doing target practice. I thought that was kind of silly. But then, like you said, to have these two characters come to recruit him was even sillier.
Yeah. What the hell he was doing out in that woods that looked a lot like the same woods in which many scenes of Peacemaker were shot.
Right.
Are they near Philadelphia? I didn't think so.
But they sure are near Atlanta, because Peacemaker filmed in Atlanta, and that's where most of this movie was filmed.
Yeah.
All the least Philadelphian cities in this nation. Atlanta's pretty high on the list. Just ask any baseball fan.
That's true.
Well,
that is very true.
I'm Shane. I hope you appreciated how much exposure Citizens Bank Park got.
Yes, I did. I said earlier I was picking out the seats that I usually sit in. I'm like, nope, that's destroyed now.
I could see the Hatfield Quality Meats logos out in the outfield, blurred, of course. But and how about the product placement for those Skittles?
Oh, that's the one thing that I forgot to mention. That actually was one of my favorite parts of the whole damn movie.
It's the rainbow, mother.
Darla is a delight in this entire thing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that she got some increased screen time. I'm glad we got, at the beginning, her tawny moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then later on with the Skittles and the that was terrific.
Yes, I appreciated the tawny moment too. That's a little love letter to long-time Fawcett Captain Marvel fans.
I half expected Tawny to come to life in some way with no explanation and save them from one of those creatures.
And maybe the Marvel Bunny could show up.
I was thinking
for that.
I just thought something crazy would have happened.
Murr, did you enjoy the cameo of the actor played the Billy Bats in the 70s TV show?
Oh yes, the man on the street in his iconic red and yellow shirt. Yes, that was TV's Michael Gray, I guess. And he did not look good.
No.
Sorry to say. I worry for the man's health.
Yeah.
I'm glad he got this moment, but it made me worry about him.
Now, I mentioned this when I talked about it, but did you take the Winnebago as the one from the TV show as well? It wasn't exact. I looked it up.
You mean the battle wagon?
Yeah.
Nope, I did not make that connection.
The one that the dragon landed on. I thought, oh, well, that kind of looks like what they used in the TV show.
Oh, I thought you meant the one that the family was driving.
No, not that one.
Nope. See, I did not notice the Winnebago at all.
Yeah.
And Chris, did you mention earlier that there were more than one Easter egg that you would notice?
No, I wanted to ask you about the appearance of the young Billy Batson, because I thought that's who it was, but I wasn't positive, and then Shane confirmed it earlier. So
I stuck around and I was scanning the credits for familiar names, and sure enough, that one was there.
And your thoughts on Gal Gadot randomly showing up and saving the day?
oddly saving the day.
Yeah. You're talking about stock comedy film sequel elements. This, the false bottom death towards the end. It reminded me of Deadpool 2, and I tend not to like to be reminded of Deadpool 2. So when Billy died, I thought, considering the whole shakeup with Warner Brothers and the DCEU, and I thought there was like maybe a 10% chance that this was real, that we were seeing that this would be a lasting, permanent death, and that the other Marvels would take center stage, if anybody, or maybe they just reboot the whole franchise. But no, instead we got a pretty literal Deus Ex Machina in the person of Gal Gadot, just kind of showing up, hands on hips, arms akimbo, ready to do it, just pick up the magic stick and bring Billy back to life somehow. Well, for one thing, the cameo had already been ruined for me because I'd seen a TV commercial with her in it, so I knew she was going to show up at some point.
Well, and that was so bad of the studio to do that, just to try and drum up attendance. I just thought that was piss poor.
What's your rating for it, Murd?
Well, it was kind of a fun. It had some fun moments in it, but a lot of kind of dead wood in between them. I'd like 2 3/4. I think is
all right.
Okay. It did not offend my old Fawcett fan sensibilities too badly, but it's not as good as it could have been.
Well, you gave it 3/4 of a point higher than I gave it. I gave it a solid 2. So. Mm-hmm.
And what did you the other gentleman on the call think?
We both gave it a 3.
Yeah, okay. I was
entertained. I was thoroughly entertained.
I was too.
Well, kind of in the ballpark.
Yeah.
In that ballpark, Citizens Bank.
Exactly. Yeah, Citizens Bank Park, or at least a CGI facsimile of it.
I was okay with that.
It's a pretty convincingly detailed.
It was.
Coming from a couple of gents who spent a lot of time in that particular stadium.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And also this.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. I was trying to actually have a setup for it, and then I just said screw it and played the button. It is time again for Muddle the Murd, and Murd can explain more. And yet again, please make sure to submit your Muddle the Murds. We have about 5 in the coffer at the moment.
Wow.
I would like to have at least 5 more by the end of next month. So please.
All right. You heard it here, folks.
Get your submissions in, folks. Let's make sure that we have a nice cushion here as Murd explains how you can attempt to muddle the Murd.
All right, folks. The name of the game here is Comics Trivia. That's what Muddle the Murd is all about. And if you'd like to play along from home, what you need to do is come up with 3 comics trivias, a Marvel question, a DC question, and a third question about some other publisher. You also have to make sure they break down chronologically so that one is about comics from pre-1970, one is about comics published between 1970 and 2000 inclusive, so the years 1970 and 2000 themselves are included in that bracket, and a third question that is about comics post the year 2000. Don't forget to include your answers to these questions. Don't get too minute in the details here. Just don't ask about obscure background details in panel 3, the page 6 of NFL Super Pro #1.
No hostess ads, folks. No hostess ads.
Yes, and also just confine your questions to the story content too, please. Thank you, Chris. Yes, no back cover images, no letters pages, no hostess ads. Yeah, exactly. Just focus on the story content and make it something that's important to plot, character, etc. Not just a throwaway detail. And once you've got your questions and answers together, type them up in an email and email them to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com with Muddle the Murd in the subject line. If you're feeling confident, include your mailing address, because if you do succeed in muddling the Murd, i.e. if I cannot answer even one of your 3 questions correctly once Ian asks them of me, you will have won a prize, which I will then be personally mailing to you.
Excellent. And we have a brand new prize in the coffer, correct?
Kinda, Ian. After I gave away the prize donated by Chris, I realized a little too late that I hadn't been back to the studio lately to try and scavenge up something else worth giving out. So, this is not exactly a prize that's going to encourage people to send in those muddles. What I have here is a copy of Marvel's Captain America 75th Anniversary magazine from a few years ago, back in 2015 or so.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Happen to have this. It's fresh in a poly bag. It's never been opened.
There you go.
It's got a
Mert,
cover
I think I
price of
can. I think I
$3.
can dredge up a few things for prizes in the future.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely have some things. If we need
Yeah.
prizes, I got some stuff I can
Yep,
I can
and
donate.
I'm planning to go by the studio tomorrow. Actually, I missed my weekly trip to Golden Eagle. I'll go tomorrow and go by
Well, there you go.
our digs on the way back and see if we've received anything lately.
I'm sure we have. I mean, guarantee we have. But this is, of course, time for me to say it's time for at least twice a year tradition. Mr. Eamon Clark,
I was hoping you would say that, Ian.
indeed, with his presence here for a new attempt at muddling the Merd. And he begins it with the trickster figure is an archetypal stock character in myths.
Wow.
And liminality, marginality, disorder, transgression, and the revelation of unpleasant truths.
This is the equivalent of throwing down the gauntlet with Murd. He wrote a whole paper on this. Come on.
Yeah, he's throwing my own words in my face. Tricksters of him. I hope he embedded them in a banana cream pie first.
He did say that this quotation is from Worlds Will Live, Worlds Will Die, Myth, Metatext Continuity, and Cataclysm in DC Comics Crisis on Infinite Earth. It's a master's thesis by Adam C. Murdo, 2006.
Yeah.
Which was referencing heroes, villains, and fools, the trickster archetype in American superhero comics, which is the bachelor's honors thesis by Adam C. Murdo. I was quoting myself. And now he's quoting me, quoting myself.
I can see the depths of it and layers to this cake beautifully here. And now it's time for some classic trickster figures as he attempts to muddle the Merd.
Goody goody.
All right. We begin with DC pre-1970, Liminality, and Disorder. The villain, the Trickster, was created by John Broome and Carmine Infantino in Flash number 113 from 1960. What is this original Trickster's real name?
Well, he went by James Jesse.
Yes. And he also went by another name. He's going to give either one of these as the correct answer, but he had a more formal name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something long in Italian.
Yes,
it's like Giuseppe Giovanni, something like that.
Reverse it, and you got it correctly.
Giovanni Giuseppe.
Yep, there you go. Giovanni Giuseppe, also known as James Jesse. Either will do. I'm going to guess Adam will know both names, and for the most part did. So job well done on that one.
Your tricksterous. In fact, I made a point of that in my undergraduate thesis, which Chris has read.
I sure have.
James Jesse, in a great example of tricksterish inversion of established order, since he saw himself as like the reverse namesake of Jesse James, the famous outlaw, he decided he'd be an outlaw too, but a very colorful and comedic outlaw, as opposed to the grim bad man that Jesse James was.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Fantastic. All right, moving on to other publishers, 1970 to 2000, The Revelations of Unpleasant Truths. V for Vendetta first appeared in the independent British comic Warrior. Mm-hmm. The issue 4, the title character confronts the former commandant of the Lark Hill concentration camp with unpleasant truths from the past. To do so, V changes from his usual costume and dons the mask of which British sideshow trickster character?
Well, only one I can think of offhand is Punch.
There we go, Punch and Judy. So that'll do.
What a masterpiece that is. Oh.
Yep.
I can still remember the one time I read it. It was on the bus ride back from Toronto's MegaCon, sitting in the seat behind Jamie D as I read that thing for the first time.
Nice.
Wow.
He also said he would have accepted Italian commedia dell'arte character Punchinella, on which Mr. Punch is
He
based.
just mouthed it. Unbelievable.
I've done my research.
Good, too good. And finally, Marvel post 2000, Marginality and Transgression. In J. Michael Straczynski's Thor #5 from his 2007 run, the archetypal trickster god appears in a new form. Which artist co-created Lady Loki in this issue?
What year did he say that was from?
2007.
Okay, I'm just a hair shy of having read up to that. Olivier Coipel?
And you were 3 for 3, sir.
God.
Inked by Mark Morales. Again, either name will do.
He didn't want you to have to pay the shipping to go overseas.
He's always been kind to me that way. You know, he's not in this for the prizes anyway. Eamon just competes for fun, which is why I was happy that this was the prize that was on the line.
We're gonna get a better prize.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yep. We'll take care of that.
Absolutely. And he said, I think Adam has a chance of a sweep here, at least 2 out of 3. And he was absolutely right. Swept has been swept.
Mm-hmm. I owe Eamon quite well. We all do, really, for his we owe him thanks for his generosity.
Absolutely.
In many forms over the years. But just add this to the list, because this was a great fun group of questions to answer. And they're also balls pitched right over the middle of the plate.
100%. Yep. All right, fantastic. So let's get back to our reading. And Murd, I might as well throw it over to you. What you been up to? What you been reading?
He may be too busy rehearsing.
I mean, I figured.
For the most part, yes. But since I had like 6 hours in the car today, I brought along a few things to read. It's mostly Time Bubble fare, of course, including rereading some things that will be discussed in an upcoming episode very soon. But also some slightly more recent things, 3 to be precise, 3 comics. One of them was Wolverine Origins, number 4. Yes, by Daniel Way and bloody hell, Steve somebody, the one who paired with Garth Ennis on
Steve Dillon.
That's the one. Yep.
The late, great Steve Dillon. Yep.
This is right after House of M. Wolverine has almost all of his memories back. He's just trying to put them all in the right order. And in this one, he's coping with the role he had in the creation of Nuke from Frank Miller's.
I remember that story. Yep.
And it involves a pretty intense Wolverine and Captain America fight. So there was that. There was also this one's for Shane, the final issue of an arc of JLA Classified, which was about it was a team building exercise for the Justice League Detroit. Like they all go up camping in the Canadian Rockies, and they run afoul of not 1 but 2 different Royal Flush gangs.
Oh,
nice.
Shane.
Nice. I have to. God, it's been so long since I read any of the classifieds. I have to dig those out.
Yeah, it's not a bad arc, and it's Steve Englehart returning to characters he mostly co-created.
Sure.
Having a second shot at them, and art by Tom Derenick, which is
nice.
Pretty tasty.
Yeah.
And the third of the 3 was a little something from Brian K. Vaughan. Which is a name I didn't know as well back in 2006 as I do now, but it's the first issue of a 6-issue miniseries from Dark Horse called The Escapists.
Oh, it's so good! Oh, it's so good!
I don't know if I ever read that.
That's based on Cavalier and Clay.
Yes,
yep.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep, it's set in the same world as Cavalier and Clay, where the characters are talking about Cavalier and Clay as if they were real people who had created a real character. It's about basically an everyday geek who decides he's going to buy the rights to The Escapist and publish his own comics. And I don't know if I haven't checked my records yet if I'd bought more than just the first issue, because the first issue was $1, like promotionally priced. I might not have continued on and bought the other 5, but. Having read the issue, I'm going to wish I had if I didn't, because it was a good story, and having just read Zdarsky's Public Domain, and this is a story in much the same vein, only it's written by Brian K. Vaughan, with a little bit of retro-styled art from one of my favorite late Bronze Age artists, Eduardo Barreto.
Yeah, this.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to say it took me forever and a day to finish Cavalier and Clay, but when I finally did, I was so happy. And then I got this from the Brooklyn Public Library after I was done with it and read it from cover to cover as a trade paperback. And it is so within the style of what Michael Chabon did that it's the spiritual successor in every single way.
Yep.
It's such a good book.
But I'm just curious, when you say your records, what do those entail?
Oh, just a simple text form computer document in which I have.
All right.
That's my version of like a spreadsheet or a database. I
Gotcha.
just type in the titles and issue numbers of every comic I own.
Tremendous.
I do still have my original Excel spreadsheet, but I haven't updated it in probably 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think Pants would be happy to learn that I at least care enough about my collection to do that much with it. So at least I know definitively what I have. He keeps even better records than that. I think he makes note of where he bought everything and how much he paid for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's got a good program to do that too.
He just doesn't know where any of it is.
It's somewhere within the house. We know that.
Yeah.
Give him a weekend, he can find anything.
There you go. All right, fantastic, and super glad that you read The Escapist. And yeah, if for some reason you don't own the rest of it, like hunt down that trade, finish it. It's well worth your time.
I think I will take that advice, Ian.
Excellent. All right, let me go over some stuff that I've been reading of late. Merge, you'll be happy to know that I read the first 3 issues of Avengers Forever after your glowing endorsement. I got through the first 3. I'd read the first one before, but this was a reread, and then I got to the other 2. It is a damn fine book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
The first 3 issues of it, the best way to describe it is Mad Max Fury Road Avenger style.
Yep.
Where everything that could have gone wrong did. The Masters of Evil found this Earth, I think it's Earth 886, if I remember correctly. And it was supposed to be essentially paradise because it's a world where Thor died in his youth. And Odin then decided to give all the gifts he would have given to Thor to the human race and ensure that everything was going to be a paradise. And then, of course, the Masters of Evil go back in time and screw that up by killing Odin and basically make it into a complete hellscape where it's being run by the Black Skull, which is a version of the Red Skull with a Venom symbiote, as well as tons of other villains thrown in there for good measure. There's a Ghost Rider Green Goblin that shows up at one point, which is incredibly scary sight to see Norman Osborn with a flaming green skull to go along with it. And then by the time the 3rd issue is done, and we see essentially the collection of evil Red Skulls that have come to try and save the dystopia from being saved by the heroes, is something else entirely. Plus the fact that the main hero of this world is a Tony Stark who is an Ant-Man instead of an Iron Man is an excellent take on it. Yes, he's still a drunk because it's Tony Stark in that aspect, but there's also an emaciated looking Vision that he put together from spare parts, a Captain Universe Ben Grimm, which is its own thing, Wonder Man, a female version of Moon Knight thrown in there for good measure. It's really, really great comics. And if you're a fan of multiversal traversing, this is going to be right up your alley.
And this is Jason Aaron, is it not? Okay.
Yes. Co-writing it, if I remember correctly. Do you remember the name of the co-writer, Merd?
I don't.
Okay. It is... I think it's Jason Aaron and Aaron Cooter.
Cooter, right. I think he's the artist, isn't he?
He is, but I believe he's also on the writing chores in one form or another.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but either way, it's so great, and I can't wait to read the future issues as I get to them. It's really, really well done.
I'll have to pick this up. I haven't read this.
Yep.
No, me either.
It's an Avengers mashup to end all Avengers mashups. Yep. And it does have a point. It does have a direction because all of these characters are being thrown together as kind of a build-up to the Avengers Assemble story that's going on there, which marks it's the end cap, the coda, the grand crescendo at the end of Jason Aaron's years-long Avengers run.
Yep. And Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, is a huge part of these first couple of issues. Right. And I gotta read more Robbie Reyes because this character seems like a lot of fun. He's a Ghost Rider that drives a freaking flaming car. I mean, come on,
the Ghost and the Furious.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And he gains the power to drive between realities. He becomes the All-Rider.
So good, so good. So that was the Marvel stuff I managed to read since the last time we got around here, and then I also read Action Comics 1050, but I also read 1051 and 1052. Okay. 1051 is the beginning of the brand new everything. It's writing by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who's going to be the main writer of Action Comics moving forward, and there's a backup with Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks that's through with the Action Comics issues. That is another tale of essentially what used to be Convergence Superman. You know, what is now our Superman. This is when Jonathan Kent was still a boy and Clark was wearing the black suit and they were living out on the farm in Kansas. This is going to be like a continuation of that. Basically, an untold story once again by the team of Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks that did that amazing Convergence series back in the day. But the main story is great too because it's got Metallo involved as one of the main villains. Lex Luthor is still very much a part of it, even though he's sitting in jail. And 1050 before that did a good job of showing us, why the identity is now secret again.
Yeah.
I won't give it away for anybody who hasn't read it yet, but the way that Lex Luthor went about it,
it was interesting.
It was interesting. It simultaneously pisses me off and was like, okay, if you're going to use a character, I'm glad they used the one that they did because it at least makes sense story-wise. Mm-hmm. But whether or not that said character comes back in one form or another. But the art on this is by Rafa Sandoval, and just to display a page of it.
Beautiful.
Oh, that looks better than what I was reading in 1050.
It's great. And for that matter, I also got a chance to read Superman #1, which is
did I.
Oh my God! Look at that. Just gaze upon the wonder.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the issue.
So good. And we learned something important, and the writing team on it, Joshua Williamson on the writing, Jamal Campbell on the art chores. So Joshua Williamson's going to be our main writer for the Superman title moving forward. And we learned something very important in this issue, which makes sense. Superman can hear everything. Yep. But there's certain people that are always there in one form or another in his ear. And Lex Luthor is one of those people.
Yes, he is.
Even when Lex Luthor's in jail, he's there playing amok with the life of Superman.
I really enjoyed the issue thoroughly.
I'll have to read that.
It's really, really great. And the cliffhanger at the end of it has me wondering exactly what the hell is going on, whether or not it's going to lead to a new Bizarro, which would be nice, or if there's another clone of Superman somehow going to get involved one way or the other. This is great stuff and well worth the name of Superman in the title. So welcome back, Superman. Happy to have you. It was really, really well done.
And if I may piggyback for a moment, Ian, because one of the books I was going to talk about, because I haven't read a Superman comic in quite some time, and over my comic life, I've read Superman spottily, like certain runs and all events and classics. But what I loved about this is, as Ian stated, the artwork is breathtaking. But it's a great, and this phrase often gets overused, but I think it's applicable here. It's a great jumping on point.
Yes.
Would you agree, Ian? Because
very much.
You have all the classic characters, the supporting cast. Everything is familiar, but it's also new because their lives have changed. Lois is now running the Daily Planet, for example.
Yep.
But again, the great twist is Luthor being in Superman's head and trying to like coach him as he's dealing with different challenges, and it's delicious. It was a really great first issue.
The new chief of police is Chief Krakoa. As anybody who reads Tom Taylor stuff knows that Maggie Sawyer is over in Bloodhaven right now, so that's continuing to be the case. But my favorite bit, he deals with Livewire in this first issue. And why is Livewire upset? Because her podcast got taken down
Yeah.
That's very much in character.
Yeah.
Absolutely the case. Yep. So yeah, well worth your time. And the Action Comics one acts the same way that Detective Comics has acted for a while now, where it's more of a Superman family book. You get the full cast of Superman's entire family in that, in one form or another, including Jonathan, including Connor, including the kids from War World, which are now staying with Lois and Clark, Steel, like the whole gambit of Superman characters. And I that's my favorite type of Superman, is when there's a Superman family, just like there's a Bat family. And we get that in many different ways in the Action Comics series as well. So Superman's back, baby, and I'm happy to see what Dawn of DC is going to bring for the character. So that's my reading for the week. Chris,
I shall commence, brothers. I was going to talk about Superman 1 as well, so that I concur wholeheartedly with everything Ian said, based on, in addition to my other comments. Okay. Danger Street.
I haven't started that yet.
So, issues 2 and 3, it's Tom King and Jorge, I'm going to mispronounce his name, I apologize, Fornes, who I think was the artist on Rorschach. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I love his artwork. It has David Mazzucchelli feel to it. So, again, the premise of this, we mentioned, we talked about issue 1, was Tom King has taken all of like the DC like first issue special Murd characters from the Murd is Beaming from the Bronze Age, throw in some new gods, Dr. Fate's helmet, the Warlord, Blue Starman, and you have this basically there's an inadvertent killing. I won't go into who does what and who's the victim, and all these various characters are then sort of drawn into trying to figure out why this has happened, where is this all going, and there are cosmic implications. I mean, I'll say this: you have a scene where is the head of the New Gods called the All Father,
High Father,
where the High Father and Darkseid embrace because they're afraid, and so what King is doing here, I mean, the story is still developing, and I don't want to give too much away. And I really don't know where it's going, and I mean that in the best possible way. But he's got everything, buddy, from the Creeper to Lady Cop. I mean, we're really doing Bronze Age deep cuts here. The Green Team are like this malevolent, like corporate entity. The Dingbats, like. It's amazing, like the fact that Tom King has taken all these characters who have like nothing in common with most of them in any sense, and he's put them all together in this really compelling story. And I'm really can't wait to see where it's going. But if you love Tom King's work, if you love the Rorschach creative team, and you have a soft spot for these characters and just sort of DC general history, and or you're a New Gods fan, you got to pick up this series. I mean, it's just the guy can just do everything at this point. I mean, like this is just. He's like, yeah, I'll give me all these characters. I'll make something out of it, and he is.
and let's yet again remind everybody of this absolutely amazing cover to Danger Street.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
the one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. The children's cereal variant of Danger Street. You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
The other thing I'll mention, I've mentioned it before, but I really want to elaborate on it again. So the latest issue of Gotham City that I have, year 1, issue 5, Tom King again and Phil Hester. This is a fantastic crime noir. And Slam Bradley, Shane, is the main character.
Yeah.
And again, he is the sort of like the end caps of the story are he's in the present day, so he's in his 90s. And he's conversing with Bruce Wayne about the Wayne family legacy from, I'm assuming it's probably the 1940s.
Probably.
And a case he's called in on, which involves the Waynes and a kidnapping. And this is a dark, sordid underbelly type of story that explores like the dark side of Gotham and the Wayne, the impact of the Wayne family. But if you love great crime noir and that tone, like if you love Ed Brubaker and Sean Film's work, or if you love like Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler, this story is drawing from all of those wonderful sources. And I loved how Slam Bradley was used by Brubaker and Catwoman. That classic run, very much in that same wheelhouse. So this is a fantastic miniseries.
I was just going to say, I'm surprised that they aged him up as much as they did.
He's like when he's talking to Batman like today. He's old. So it's really well done. Now that's great. A couple trades. Levinstein.
Yeah,
I believe.
There we go. She-Hulk.
So anytime Ian gives a recommendation, I usually have such great faith in his. I actually always have great faith in his taste that I always give it a shot when I can. So I haven't read She-Hulk regularly since the legendary Dan Slott run from, what was it, the 2000s?
Yep, like mid 2000s.
Yeah. So this is Rainbow Rowell. I'm going to mispronounce the names. I apologize. Is it Rohei? The artist?
I believe so.
Antonio Luca Maresca, colored by Rico Renzi. So what's great about this story is that all of She-Hulk's history is there. Like, they're not wiping anything away, revisiting, revising it. It's actually, Ian, I think it's very rich in the history of She-Hulk.
Oh, absolutely.
The relationships, the characters. But what I love about it, and what I think is so imperative for the She-Hulk character is there's always the sense of fun, of playfulness, that she's not Bruce, right? She finds humor in situations, even when she's dealing with challenges and turmoil. There's always that sort of sense of optimism about Jen.
Yep.
And I think that's in spades in this book. But most of all, though, I give a crap about Jack of Hearts, which is not a character.
Welcome to the fan club, Chris.
Yeah, he didn't he kill Scott Lang at some point inadvertently?
He wasn't in control of his actions. He was basically being used as a living bomb.
I know it was inadvertent, but Scott's still alive, isn't he? At this point?
Well, he came back. I think there was some time travel involved, and
sure, okay.
The Young Avengers went back to the moment that he died and pulled him out of the time stream before he had a chance to die, and then brought him forward in time, and that's the Scott Lang that we have.
All right, we can do that for everybody. So, but so I'm really enjoying how they're really taking this, minor. Who created him? The great creator. Who created Jack of Hearts? Ooh. No, I'm thinking of Dominic Fortune. Sorry, I'm thinking of
Chaykin.
Chaykin did Dominic Fortune.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I don't remember who created Jack of Hearts.
First appeared in the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu magazine. That much I know, but I don't know.
You're Mr. Mantlo. Mr. Mantlo.
Okay, that makes sense. That's
Mantlo and Giffen. Mantlo and Giffen.
Great, thank you. So, I've only read a handful of his appearances over the years. He's guest starred in different books, but he's such a fully realized character. What's great is, again, great writing. They're acknowledging the whole history of the character, and She-Hulk's trying to figure out, how do I explain to him that he doesn't know yet, he doesn't remember yet that he killed Scott Lang. Correct in the first 5 issues that I've read.
Yep.
Yeah. So. Because the trades the first 5 issues, so it's wonderful. Again, Jen trying to be a lawyer again and dealing with, and then Ben shows up, and people. The scene where all the heroes come in trying to get legal advice from her, and they're all cramming into her little closet office. Yep. It was fabulous, and also the cover art by Jen Bartel. It's some of the most beautiful. Like, Jennifer Walters' last She-Hulk is supposed to be like a beautiful woman, and she captures that so perfectly in these covers, and just her eyes, her expression. It's stunning cover artwork. So, Ian, I can't thank you enough. I'm looking forward to the next trade. I'll read it in trade. But this is a superb new Marvel series.
It really is. So, Shane, you're next.
And why? And why is it good again? Why is it good? I'm going to beat a dead horse here. They acknowledge and respect the history, and they use it to make something new and exciting with it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Even though our listener has assured us that Marvel Zombies series is in the 616, so hopefully they'll find a way to reference it one way or the other. I'm sure, because supposedly Jack of Hearts came back to life in a Marvel Zombies series. I think Marvel Zombies 3, which everything from that point forward takes place in the 616. But we'll figure it out.
If it's the right writer, fine.
Wasn't Jack of Hearts added to the One Avengers run in the 2000s?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I loved him in that.
That's
Jeff Johns was writing it at that point.
Yeah. And wasn't he with Jen? Wasn't She-Hulk part of the team?
Yes.
She was, right? Oh, because, yeah. Last book I'll mention. So, Flashpoint Beyond. So, I decided I wanted to take a stab at this because I liked how they used the Thomas Wayne Batman in the Flashpoint story. I found that character very interesting.
Yep.
And admittedly, and I've said this before, I was not a big fan of the New 52 overall, with some exceptions. But I was interested to see where they were going to go, how they're going to go back to this character. So it's part detective story. It's part story about, him trying to figure out, why am I back? Right? Like, why does my reality exist again? And, and then, like any good, true, great, alternate reality, what if, they have a lot of fun with different characters, what happens to his wife, who she now is, the Dents. They return to like the Aquaman, Wonder Woman war that was going on, right, in the Flashpoint world. It started off a little slow for me, but as I went along, it really became very engaging. They do more with the Superman of the Flashpoint world, who's a very strange character. You may recall how he was used in that series. They kind of do more with him and make him, I think, more interesting. It's well done. It didn't excite me as much as She-Hulk. That's just because I'm just more partial to the Marvel characters. But I liked how they really used. There's like a Poison Ivy, the different characters in this world. But the best part of the story is just Thomas Wayne and how broken he is and damaged and tormented. And really, it's him trying to figure out, how can I write things and essentially, save the Bruce of the main timeline.
Would you compare this sequel wise? I mean, they're both alternate realities, so I have to ask. Like, is it like the another nail to the nail? Like, is it like as good quality wise, say, as that was, or would you put this in a different category?
See, the Nail I read a long time ago, but the Nail I remember loving. I don't think I even read another Nail actually. That's a hard question to ask, Ian, because I didn't love Flashpoint. I thought part of that's because I just didn't like the whole direction they were taking at that time. So that may have prejudiced me a bit against the story. But I remember I thought Flashpoint was engaging despite all that. It's good. Okay. If you liked Flashpoint, if you like Thomas Wayne, I highly recommend you read this story. If that wasn't your bag, you can live without it. But I don't regret reading it. It's not like, oh God, I just wasted however many minutes reading this book. It was good because the Thomas Wayne character, I think, is a really interesting take on the Batman mythos.
Got it.
Essentially, that's my field report this time, gentlemen.
Cool.
Sounds good. Alrighty. Then I think bolt a shot.
Bolt shot.
You got to go to bed, Ian. I don't care what you say.
Indeed. Well, glad we were able to get you involved, Murd.
Amen.
Indeed.
Glad I just got in under that wire.
Yeah.
Yep. And once again, we are glad that we have you folks involved at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. We thank you so much for your continued support of the show, however you give it. I really do appreciate it. And if you do feel like throwing us a bone, it's as little as $1 a month to join up on the Patreon. So patreon.com/comicgeekspeak for that. And as this will be recording after our deadline, I will point out that votes are in the process of being tallied, and we will indeed have our results show sometime by the end of April.
Yes.
So folks know what the best of 2022 is going to be. I will be gone for a week, so once I get back from that sojourn, we'll gather together, and it'll be on the front of whatever episode comes out when we return. So stay tuned for that and find out what you folks voted as the best of 2022. All right, fantastic. And with that, hey, guess what? Shane's here. He gets to be Shane.
Hey ho. Visit us at comicgeekspeak.com to send us an email. The address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com. Follow us or look us up on YouTube at youtube.com/comicgeekspeak. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, send in your muddle the merds. As Ian pointed out, we only have 5 and we'd like to have double. So send those in as soon as possible. As Chris goes, with Godzilla. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
Wow, I feel like you're one step away from having a whole routine. Hey there, Godzilla, how you doing?
And I was thinking, and Gazuki.
Of course, but I had to shoot his fist right at the screen.
Of course.